Chapter 1078. Poor child, FIOS said softly. However, the next moment, a gunshot pulled everyone back to reality. Lisa fell to the ground. Everyone stared at FIOS in astonishment. FIOS, what are you doing? You killed a child. Emily screamed. A genius girl who passed the Mensa test and was invited to many famous universities at the age of 12. She's an orphan, FIOS said. She said that her parents were killed on the ship. Obviously, she lied, said FIOS. But she's just a child. She's a demon, FIOS said. Just then, Lisa stood up again. Fiona wasn't surprised at all. FIOS Leon passed the Mensa test at the age of 10. Among the geniuses in the past 10 years, she's second only to me, Lisa said with a smile. FIOS looked at Risa. How did you become a pirate? Looks like you're not as smart as I thought, Lisa said with a smile. Just then, a white line appeared in front of them. Then, the Conqueror let out a loud whistle. A huge wave is coming. Everyone, get ready. Lisa turned around and looked at the incoming wave. Such a huge wave. It's at least 15 meters high. No, it's 18 meters. FIOS looked at the wave and said in a competitive tone, Looks like you're not as good as I thought. Bang! The wave was already crashing toward them. First, Zoran was thrown out of the deck by the wave. He screamed and flew away. No one could save him. In the face of the force of nature, the power of humans seemed so insignificant. The others only survived because they held onto the railings tightly. The Conqueror was also thrown off course by the wave. FIOS found that Lisa was able to resist the impact of the huge wave without holding onto any handrails. Suddenly, a huge black pillar appeared in front of them. The black pillar stretched across the sky and covered everything in front of it. That thing had a very awesome name, the Eye of the Storm. The only way to see the Eye of the Storm was to observe it from near-Earth weather satellites. From the outside, they could only see a black pillar. Damn it, we can't go any closer, FIOS yelled. Domingo, get into the cabin. Even without Fioz's reminder, they knew that this was not a good place to stay. When FIOS was about to enter the cabin, she suddenly saw something in front of her. There seemed to be a ship in the direction of the Eye of the Storm. Not just one, but many. However, those ships did not look like modern ships. They were hung with messy old sails, and their bodies were made of rotten wood. They were not sailing on the surface of the sea. Instead, they were riding on huge waves. That feeling was just like the legendary ghost ship. Well, what is that? Ghost ship! Ghost ship! Prepare for battle! Someone on the ship shouted. FIOS heard gunshots and bombs exploding. However, this was only the beginning. Soon, an even more intense impact followed. Bang! A ghost ship slammed into the Conqueror, causing it to tilt to the side. Then, another Spectre ship crashed into it. The Conqueror completely covered the surface of the sea. Abandoned ship, abandoned ship. All FIOS could hear was chaos and noise. Then she was thrown out of the ship. Cold, chaos, and darkness spread all over Fioz's body. Suddenly, FIOS felt a hand grab her. FIOS opened her eyes and saw that Risa was holding her hand in the sea. For some reason, FIOS felt a surge of warmth, which kept her from freezing in the sea. FIOS was trying her best to swing her arms, but the waves were too strong for her to do much. All she could do was drift. Just then, FIOS saw another ship, a luxurious yacht. However, the yacht was heading toward the center of the storm. Ava, the Black Witch, was on the yacht. Adam had witnessed all of this. He knew how powerful his mother was. However, this was also the first time he saw his mother summon 6 ghost ships. The Conqueror was torn apart and capsized. What a terrifying power. Adam, I've avenged you. Are you satisfied now? Of course, Mother. Adam's smile was a bit forced. But Helly's also... her? Don't worry, she won't die. After all, she's my daughter, my most outstanding and perfect work. How can she die here so easily? Ava said calmly, let's go. Nasamara is right in front of us. I don't want to miss the approach of Agama, which happens once every 159 years. After all, I don't have a third 159 years. Adam's heart skipped a beat. He looked up at Ava. Mother, you. Ava turned to look at Adam with a smile. Is it strange? I'm 360 years old. You? How? Do you want to ask me how I can live so long? Adam lowered his head. Of course he wanted to know. Living for 360 years. This was an unimaginable lifespan. There are many ways to live for 360 years. For example, the method I use is to constantly change body parts and internal organs. Except for the brain, I have changed many things. This is the benefit of alchemy. Of course, the risk of changing the head is too great. I have only changed it twice, and each time the success rate was less than 10%. But I was very lucky and succeeded both times. Then can I learn? You don't need it right now, and you're not strong enough. Ava gently pinched Adam's chin. In the past 3 centuries, I have been constantly pursuing ways to extend my lifespan. I think Nasamara Island will give me the final answer. Mother, what exactly is on Nasamara Island? I don't know either. My ancestors' ambitions were even greater than mine. I don't know what they wanted to do at that time. An excited look appeared on Ava's face. But just thinking about slaughtering tens of thousands of people for that plan, I feel my blood boiling. That must be a plan that shocked me. And I can hear that voice in my bloodline, telling me to take over and perfect that plan. Mother, there aren't that many people for you to slaughter now. Adam's voice was trembling. Even he was afraid of his mother's terrifying and dark heart. If it was before World War II, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people dying would not be news. But this was a civilized society. Chapter 1079. There's an island up ahead. Swim faster if you don't want to die. Rhesa's voice echoed in Orpheus's ears. Fiona had been conscious the whole time. Looking from afar, there was indeed an island up ahead. However, the island seemed to be at the center of the storm. She knew very well that if she passed out, Rhesa would definitely leave her behind. She didn't know why, but she felt that Rhesa was completely unafraid of the wind and waves, not even the cold. Every time a wave hit, FIOS felt like she was sinking into the deep sea. But Rhesa would pull her out of the sea every time. When she resurfaced, she suddenly found that the wind and waves had calmed down. Even the sunlight became bright. She felt a surge of warmth in her heart. She was only a few hundred meters away from the island. Compared to the wind and waves just now, a few hundred meters didn't seem to be a problem anymore. FIOS swam as hard as she could and finally reached the shore. Lying on the soft sand, FIOS enjoyed the warm sunlight and the fine sand. She enjoyed the long-lost peace and the beautiful weather. FIOS suddenly thought of Rhesa and sat up abruptly. Rhesa slowly walked out of the sea, dragging a big fish that was as big as her. Aren't you hungry? But we don't have a fire. Go get some firewood. For what? To make a fire. But how do we make a fire? You have an IQ of 158. Rhesa glanced at FIOS. FIOS was a bit annoyed. Let's see how you make a fire. FIOS collected firewood from the beach. Then she piled it in front of Rhesa. Then it was time to watch the show. She wanted to see how Rhesa made a fire. Rhesa came to the pile of firewood and snapped her fingers. The firewood was suddenly ignited. Fios's eyeballs almost popped out. How did you do it? You want to know? FIOS nodded. I'm not telling you. Rhesa grilled the fish proudly. FIOS noticed that Rhesa wasn't sad about the shipwreck at all. Aren't you worried about your situation at all? Why should I? Then you don't worry about your friends? No. You have no feelings for them at all? Well, a little, but not too deep. Besides, if I can't die, they can't die either, Rhesa said matter-of-factly. You're really confident in them, but this is a vast ocean, and there's a superstorm outside. We're lucky to be able to survive. Do you think your companions will be as lucky? Rhesa glanced at FIS. Are you sure it's because of luck? Earlier, I saw a ghost ship. That can't be real, right? Was it just a hallucination? Foyos had always been brooding over this. She felt that she was hallucinating because she was on the verge of death. In fact, some experts and scholars had analyzed that the so-called ghost ships were illusions that people had when they faced huge waves. FIOS did not know if what she saw was real or just an illusion. But that scene was very clear. It was so clear that FIOS could still remember it even now. It's true, Lisa said indifferently. You're lying. There's no Spectre ship. Fine, you're right. Risa glanced at FOS and did not argue with her. Alger was floating on the sea. Just then, a modified armed ship appeared in front of him. A ladder dropped down from the ship. Alger immediately climbed onto the ship. Uncle. Alger saw a dignified man standing in front of him. His uncle, Channon Laydon, was actually here. Who allowed you to act on your own? Uncle. The Laydons have been hunting the Black Witch for 3 centuries. This is the first time we've been so close to her. You shouldn't have let ordinary people get involved. Channon Laydon's eyes were like torches, and he had a cold aura around him. Domingo is with me too. I'm even more worried because of him. That kid has too many thoughts, Channon Laydon said. Domingo is my friend. Your friend won't lead you to your death. We found the Black Witch's whereabouts, so we immediately followed her after informing you. Are you sure the Black Witch is heading toward the center of the storm? Yes, I'm sure. I saw her ship enter the storm with my own eyes. She even used magic to sink the pirate ship that carried me. Pirate ship? Yes, the ship we rented sank in the storm. Then, a group of pirates rescued it. Of course, those pirates aren't good people either. Just then, a crew member hurried over with a pair of binoculars. Boss, there's a drowned person ahead. Channon Laydon took the binoculars and saw a person lying on a swimming ring in the raging sea. He held a bottle of wine in one hand and a barbecue in the other. Channon Laydon put down the binoculars and rubbed his eyes. Then he looked again. Yes, that person was actually enjoying good food and wine in the storm. Is there an Asian on that pirate ship? Channon Laydon asked. Alger froze for a moment before nodding. There is one, but that Asian doesn't seem to be a pirate. He's also someone who got into trouble and committed suicide by jumping into the sea. Channon Laydon handed the binoculars to Alger. Is it that man? Yes, it's that man. Pull that person up, Channon Laydon said. A moment later, Chen Zhao was pulled up. You are? Chen Zhao really didn't have much of an impression of Alger. Alger had seen Chen Zhao a few times on the Conqueror. However, Chen Zhao was in a daze every time and didn't notice Alger at all. Don't you recognize me? Alger asked, looking at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao combed his hair and then poured the water out of his ears. Can I wash up? I need to change my clothes now, Chen Zhao said. After soaking in the sea for a long time, the seawater had salted after coming ashore. It felt very uncomfortable on his skin. If you want to wash and change your clothes, that's fine. I can even provide you with food, but you have to answer my question first. No comment. Chen Zhao didn't even know who Alger was. Channon Laydon stood at the side silently. He frowned and kept staring at Chen Zhao. This man was too calm, both at sea and on the ship. Chapter 1080. UCLA Professor, Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. He wanted to jump into the sea again, because his seasickness was starting to act up again on the ship. One of the subordinates checked, and then nodded at Channon Laydon. What's wrong? You don't look well. Alger's expression darkened when he saw Chen Zhao board the boat. You don't look well. Seasickness. Air. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. Alger and Channon Laydon were even more certain that Chen Zhao had nothing to do with the pirates. After all, a seasick person couldn't become a pirate. The waves grew stronger. Chen Zhao's head sank, and he fell to the ground. When Chen Zhao woke up again, he found himself lying in a cabin. The sun was bright outside the window, and the ship stopped shaking. Chen Zhao looked at the time. He seemed to have slept for 2 hours. He walked out of the cabin and onto the deck. Chen Zhao found that the ship was parked a few hundred meters away from an island. Channon Laydon was making arrangements to land on the island. Chen Zhao looked at the island. It was huge. Mountains stacked on top of each other, and blue shirts covered it. Seagulls soared in the sky, and the water was blue. But when he turned his head, he could see a layer of dark clouds outside. The island seemed to be covered in a storm forever. The inside and outside of the island were 2 different worlds. You're awake. Alger glanced at Chen Zhao, who had walked out. Where is this? Alger frowned. This man didn't seem to be grateful at all for saving him. You better stay on the ship. This island isn't a place you should set foot on. Judging from their tone, this might be the Nasamara Island he was looking for. They seemed to know of Nasamara Island's existence too. However, he didn't know who they were. Why were they looking for Nasamara Island? I refuse. I want to go on the island. There must be treasure on the island. Don't think about taking it all for yourself. Alger sneered. Even if there really is treasure, how much do you think you'll get? They all had guns, and there were many of them. No matter what, Chen Zhao wouldn't get anything. Charnine Layton glanced at him. If you want to come, then come. If you encounter danger, don't expect us to save you. The thing I'm least afraid of is danger. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to sea. The danger here isn't as dangerous as you imagine. Even the most violent seas aren't as dangerous as the things on this island, Alger said. Everyone boarded the raft and reached the shore. Charning Layton's men found something. Boss, someone started a fire here before. There are still sparks on the charcoal. He should have left not long ago. Chun Zhao glanced at the grass in the distance and rubbed his forehead. Fios and Rissa were hiding in the bushes. They immediately saw Channon laid on and Alger's armed ship, so they hid immediately. Fios wanted to scream, but Rissa covered her mouth and dragged her into the bushes. This group of people came with ill intentions. But Alger is inside, and so is Mr. Channon, Fios said. Why didn't you let me scream? Didn't you notice? They're all armed. They don't look like normal people. Who do you think their guns are for? You pirates, of course. What a joke. Without any communication, how did Channon Leiden know about the existence of the pirates? Rissa analyzed calmly. It's clear that they were prepared and definitely not for us. It's most likely that Alger is Channon Layton's sentry. Mr. Channon Layton is a billionaire. Don't think that everyone is as cruel and evil as you pirates. Don't be naive. At least 5 of the armed men behind Channon Layton are internationally wanted criminals. Nonsense. Do you see the man with a wolf tattoo on his arm? Do you remember the bombing suspect in New York Square? Hearing Reese's reminder, Fioz's brain started working rapidly. As a genius with outstanding intelligence, she had her own way of thinking. If not for Reese's reminder, Fios might not have accessed the storage in her brain. But after hearing Reese's words, Fios dug out a deep memory. It's him. Looks like you're not completely stupid. You finally remembered. Don't keep belittling me. I'm only 1 point lower than you in the Mensa test. A point lower is still a point lower. Moreover, I took the test when I was 5 years old, while you took the test when you were 10. So, the difference in our intelligence isn't just a point. We're not even on the same level. It was the first time Fios had been so speechless. After a long while, she finally said, IQ doesn't mean everything. Your IQ is higher than mine, but your EQ is too low. Low EQ? I just don't want to beat around the bush, Risa sneered. Risa could already see Chun Zhao in the group. Similarly, Chun Zhao also saw Risa. Both of them smiled knowingly. That Asian found us, right? Why didn't he say anything? Fios asked, confused. He's your accomplice? That's not right. He seemed to have been tortured by you on the ship. What's a relationship? Fios was really confused by their relationship. If they were companions, why would the pirates shoot him with guns? Moreover, after he was killed, he appeared in front of him alive the next day. Also, didn't he jump off the ship to commit suicide? Why didn't he die? All kinds of questions rose in her mind. Only when Charnine Layton and Alger left with the group did the two let out sighs of relief. Not long after they left, Fios was about to come out. Risa stopped her. Don't go out. Why? Risa pointed at the sea. 2 more ships are coming. Your old friends are in them too. My old friends? Fios soon understood what Risa meant. It was none other than Zoran and Emily who had landed. Behind them were dozens of fully armed people. Zoran and Emily were also fully armed. What's going on? Foios realized that her friend looked so unfamiliar. A moment ago, they were playing the role of the victim. But now, they were people with different thoughts. Looks like it's more complicated than I thought, Risa mumbled. Chapter 1081. Charning laid on and Alger stopped. They also noticed Zoran and Emily's man behind them. Huh? Zoran isn't dead? Alger was also surprised. Originally, Zoran was the first to be washed away by the huge wave. Everyone thought he was dead for sure. They didn't expect him to reappear in front of them, and he even met up with Emily. You know them? Charming Ladon asked. Friend, he doesn't look simple either. Alger was a little dazed. Zoran and Emily also saw the big team in front of them. Both sides had equal numbers and equipment. They were all equipped with some conventional weapons. Enemy? Charming Ladon asked. I don't know. I'll go check, Alger said. He walked over to Zoran and Emily. Zoran, Emily, I didn't expect to meet you again. Alger, I also didn't expect to see you here. Zoran smiled at Alger and the people behind him. They were no longer as distressed and desolate as they were when they were kidnapped by pirates. Everyone was in high spirits, and their eyes shone with a sharp light. Alger vaguely remembered that they first met in the gym. Alger had received military training since he was young, so his body was very strong. Zoran, on the other hand, was the record holder of some fitness events in the gym, so Alger issued a challenge. After a while, the two got to know each other. Then, Zoran brought Alger to meet his girlfriend, Emily. You approached me on purpose? Zoran asked. No, before this, I didn't know your identity at all. Of course, I don't know now either. Who are you? Then who are you? Neither side was willing to say a word more about their identities. They weren't sure if they were enemies or not. Alger's eyes shone as he looked at Zoran and Emily. After a while, Alger said tentatively, Ava. Zoran and Emily suddenly reacted. At the same time, the people behind them raised their guns and pointed at Alger. Because of this name, both sides were at daggers drawn. Are you the Black Witch's men? Alger asked. No, we're hunters, Zoran and Emily said. We are hunters too, Alger said. That's impossible. How could I not know? Since ancient times, only our Altheo family is the enemy of the Sansiko family. You're not the pursuer, Zoran said righteously. Ancient times? Our family has been pursuing the Black Witch Ava for 300 years. Alger said, Is this considered ancient? What family are you from? Leighton family. Our family used to be the leader of the Revival Society, but it was destroyed because of the Black Witch. Since then, we've been chasing after the Black Witch, but we haven't succeeded for 300 years. That's right. So, that's how it is. It seems we can be considered allies, Zoran said with a smile. However, be it him or Emily or Alger's side, they were still wary of each other. They did not lower the guns in their hands. Alger said, What's up with the Sansiko family you mentioned? And the Athulus. Do you know where this island is? Alger shook his head. I don't know. This is the hometown of the Athulus and Sansiko families, Nasamara Island, a civilization that has been destroyed. Once, our two families were the rulers of Nasamara's civilization. We worked together to rule and manage Nasamara, Zoran said. Zoran said, However, the Sansiko clan carried out an evil plan. They destroyed Nasamara with their own hands and killed countless people. Since then, the Altheo clan has been pursuing the descendants of the Sansiko clan for generations, swearing to exterminate them. According to what Zoran said, they were not enemies, but allies. At least they had the same goal, to kill the Black Witch. Of course, this did not mean they trusted each other. To put it bluntly, their current conversation was only a one-sided story. Then why did the Black Witch come here? I don't know, Zoran said. Maybe it's the Sansiko family's evil plan. The Sansiko family only has the Black Witch and her children left. As long as we kill them, our mission will be over. As for their evil plans, I don't care. I think we need to cooperate sincerely, so I don't want to hide anything. I didn't hide anything, Zoran said seriously. But what about you, Domingo and Fios? Are they in cahoots with you? Domingo is from another hunter family. He's in cahoots with our Leighton family. Fios isn't. She's just an ordinary girl. Then she is now. She should have died at sea, Alger said. Alger said, After all, you saw the situation back then. Under such circumstances, even if I wanted to save her, there was nothing I could do. What a pity. She's a good girl. So now what do we do? Shall we go together? Alger asked tentatively. If you're willing, we can cooperate with you. Of course, this is only temporary. If you're not willing, we'll split up. We're facing the Black Witch, so I don't think there's anything wrong with working together. At least, we have a higher chance of winning, right? Aldrich said. Then who will lead who? If there's any disagreement, we can discuss it. If not, we'll go our separate ways. Okay, I agree, Zoran said. He turned to Emily. What do you think? I think it's acceptable too. Okay, it's settled then. Zoran and Emily suddenly realized that Chun Zhao was also in Alger's team. Why is he here? We saved him at sea. Can he be trusted? I don't know, Alger said casually. Alger casually said, if I discover anything wrong or suspicious about him, I won't hesitate to give him a bullet. Chun Zhao glanced at both sides. He heard everything they said, but he didn't care. He also wanted to see if these 200 families could really kill the Black Witch. If they could, it would save him a lot of trouble. However, he didn't know how his subordinates were doing. Of course, he wasn't worried that they would die at sea. They could all deal with the storm in a short period of time. Chapter 1082. West was wearing a life jacket and hugging a lifebuoy. He let the waves hit him. He wasn't in a hurry to find a way out. With his stamina, he couldn't swim anywhere no matter how hard he struggled. So, he waited for help with peace of mind. Soon, a few figures appeared on the surface of the sea. Hi. West raised his arm unhurriedly and waved. Amon carried a dozen people to West's side. Amon's body was 70 meters long, so his back was very wide. It was enough for the people of the association to sleep on. After West climbed up, Alice looked at him and said, Mr. West, why did you all act the same when I found you? Didn't you think about saving yourselves at all? Kaz turned his head. Not long ago, when Amon had found him, he was also like West, lying in the lifebuoy in the sea breeze. He wasn't anxious at all. His team members were the same too. They didn't know that their boss was the same. So, habits were really contagious. No matter what the situation was, they wouldn't panic. Even when others thought they were in a hopeless situation, they were still calm. Because I know you'll find me. Do a count and see if anyone's missing. Everyone's here except the president and Risa, West said. Then let's go around again and see if we can find Risa, Alice said. As for their president, they weren't worried at all. Since Amon had come to find them, it must be Chun Zhao's idea. So, they didn't have to worry about Chun Zhao. Is Risa dead? She might not be able to make it. No, West said. The device she's wearing still has a signal, but it's too far away. I can't locate her. Everyone in the association wore a watch-like device. It could send location and heart rate data to others. Apart from Chun Zhao, it was because he didn't need it. It was also because the device couldn't measure his heart rate. But the data was sent through their own regional network and could be sent to each other. Locating them depended on satellite navigation. Due to the bad weather, the satellite navigation was affected, so they couldn't locate Risa. What do we do now? FIOS asked. Wait for someone. Lisa glanced at her watch, and everyone's vital signs were full. It seemed like they were all safe, but it made sense. If a newbie like him could be safe and sound, those old foxes would be even more so. Your pirate companions? Fiona's eyes flickered. She was starting to regret that she should have spoken up earlier. She would rather be with her former friends than with these pirates. I'm leaving. Don't even think about going anywhere, Risa said indifferently. You don't have the right to order me anymore. Your companions aren't here. Risa grabbed Fio's wrist tightly. Fiona tried to break free, but she felt a burning sensation on her wrist. Ah, what do you have in your hand? Let go of me. As long as you stay here obediently, you will not be harmed. However, if you dare to run, I guarantee that you will die a horrible death. Are you sure your companion is still alive? They would have died in the storm if they wanted to. They're still alive. I can guarantee that. After all, even you and I are alive. There is no reason for them to die at sea. FIOS did not think so. She believed that the reason why the two of them survived was because of their good luck. It was all because of their good luck. However, no one dared to guarantee that they would be able to survive the raging winds and huge waves. What they were facing was a murderous wave. Facing the force of nature, no one could guarantee that they could survive. At this moment, a person dragged his heavy body out of the sea. Fios's eyes lit up. Was it Domingo? Ignoring Reisa's objection, FIOS rushed out of the bush. Domingo. Domingo was surprised to see FIOS. FIOS was still alive? It was really unexpected that she could actually survive in that kind of situation. Just then, Reisa also came out. Domingo, who was walking toward FIOS, stopped and looked at Reisa in confusion. FIOS, why are you with her? I was kidnapped by her. Reisa stood where she was and looked at Domingo. You're not an ordinary person, are you? I don't know what you mean. Domingo narrowed his eyes and looked at Lisa. He was trying to figure out what she meant and her intentions. You have calluses between your thumb and index finger. That's from holding a gun for a long time, Reisa said. You've had professional military training for a long time. FIOS stopped and looked at Domingo with a confused look. Domingo, you and Alger are together? She remembered that Domingo and Alger had a close relationship. This caused Fiona to have doubts as well. Her mind was in a complete mess right now. His few best friends seemed to have become so unfamiliar. Together? We can only say that we know each other and know each other's background. At this time, Domingo did not hide it anymore. He took the initiative to say, my family and his family are allies, but my family has been declining for a long time, while the Leighton family has always been prosperous. I shoulder the mission of revitalizing my family. Aren't you afraid that I'll tell everyone what you're up to? FIOS asked a stupid question. Did you really pass the Mensa test? Reisa rolled her eyes. Domingo smiled at FIOS. Do you know why I've been pursuing you? Why? Because of your mother's business, of course, my little princess, Domingo said with a smile. He looked very calm at the moment, as if he had been holding the words in for too long. So much so that he said it without any hesitation. I want to get your mother's wealth through you, and then use it to revitalize my family, Domingo said. You could keep pretending. Why did you stop now? First, I have my own plan. You're just a backup plan. Second, Domingo grinned. I can do it without you. As long as you give birth to my child, the plan can still go on. You're not necessary. Chapter 1083. Stupid woman. They say that women with big breasts have no brains. You're a typical example. I really don't understand how you passed the Mensa test. Lisa was full of disdain, especially towards women with bigger breasts than her. She was full of hostility. Of course, most adult women in the world were her enemies. Did I say anything wrong? Obviously, he doesn't want to have a relationship with you and then have a baby with you, Reisa said, rolling her eyes. You mean he wants to rape me? But it's against the law. God, how stupid can this woman be? Reisa yelled. He's not just going to rape you. He's going to detain you and make you have his baby. FIOS felt sick to her stomach. She looked at Domingo in disgust. Domingo, I didn't know you were that kind of person. There are many things you don't know, Domingo said calmly. But as long as you're willing to cooperate with me, I can treat you well. Even if I die, I won't do what you want. Do you think you have the right to choose? Domingo said calmly as he strolled toward FIOS. Don't come any closer, or I won't go easy on you. FIOS picked up a stone from the ground. What a sad old woman. Reisa curled her lips. Did you just call me an old woman? FIOS was furious. She could tolerate Lisa repeatedly provoking her, and she could tolerate Lisa calling her stupid. But she couldn't tolerate Reisa calling her an old woman. This was something that absolutely could not be tolerated. It was the same for any woman. You are an old woman, Reisa said proudly. Flat-breasted, FIOS stared at Reisa with her teeth clenched. Sure enough, only women knew the weaknesses of women. Reisa was also furious. What she cared about the most was being called flat. I'm just young and haven't developed yet, Reisa said. It's a symbol of my youth. Ha! I was already a B cup at your age, FIOS said proudly. FIOS said proudly. Do you know normal girls have at least A+ or B breasts at the age of 12 to 14, but you don't even have a dash. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Ha! Domingo realized that he was being ignored. The two women seemed to have forgotten about him when they were arguing. You two, shut up! Reisa and FIOS yelled at the same time. You're such an old woman. You flat-chested woman whose breasts will never develop. You two, shut up! Domingo was enraged. He also hated being ignored. He had never been a low-key person, He hoped that others would always take him as the center of attention. He wanted to be the focus of everyone. Whether it was good or bad, he didn't like being ignored. I'll kill whoever dares to ignore me. Domingo gritted his teeth as he glared at the two women. Risa turned to look at Domingo. You're just one person, and we're two. Is this enough? Domingo took out a pistol from his back. FIOS looked at Domingo in fear. Do you have enough bullets? Lisa laughed. There are only two of you. Are you sure there are only two? Don't you want to look back? Don't play tricks like that in front of me. Domingo obviously didn't believe Risa's words. In his opinion, Risa's idea was very childish and ridiculous. However, Domingo noticed that Fioz's expression began to change. From fear to surprise, and then to surprise. Domingo thought he knew FIOS very well, even though she had a high IQ. She was smart, but she had always been naive because she rarely interacted with others. She couldn't act like this. Domingo turned around and saw a dozen people on the shoreline. Pirates? Not a single one of these pirates died. Domingo turned around and ran without thinking. He didn't think that he could deal with so many people. Moreover, these people killed people like flies. They were vicious and merciless, and they had excellent weapons and equipment. Domingo dove into the bushes and disappeared. Domingo felt bitter. The Layton family could easily gather dozens of people, but he was alone. But he could only be a loner, and he had to do everything by himself. If there was no comparison, there would be no harm. But precisely because of this comparison, Domingo's pride rose. One day, he would let those who looked down on him know how much of a failure they had been. West and the others came to Risa. He only glanced at the escaping Domingo. Why didn't you stop him? He has a gun in his hand. Lisa looked harmless. However, everyone in the association knew that Risa was an absolute little witch. Gun? Is that thing a threat to Lisa? In the association, apart from Chinzhao, Risa was the only one who could be completely immune to normal guns. The mechanism of using a gun was to hit the end of the cartridge and trigger the gunpowder inside. Then, the gunpowder would expand and turn into potential energy to propel the bullet. However, Risa could directly absorb the heat from the gun. Therefore, the gun was less threatening to her than a slingshot. Where's the president? West asked. He thought that Chinzhao was with Risa. He's in a group of people, Risa said in a low voice and told him what had happened. FIOS stood not far away, watching these people anxiously. To be honest, she wanted to escape too. But she was afraid that if she escaped, she would encounter us on the island. For a moment, FIOS found that she had nowhere to go and nowhere to run. It was as if everyone had become untrustworthy, and everyone had become repulsive. What were those pirates discussing? They must be discussing some shady business. Among the five, Risa said, this woman is the only normal person. The other four are either unidentified or have other motives. The situation seems a bit complicated, West said. Those people should be hunters, Helios interrupted. Hunters? Everyone looked at Helios in surprise. When I first met my mother, she mentioned that we had to be careful of a family called the All-Yuri. This All-Yuri family is also a noble family in Nasamara. They've always been enemies with our family and the All-Yuri family, and they have a way to distinguish between people with our family's blood. So are they enemies or allies? Enemies, Helios said. Chapter 1084. I can feel that woman's scent lingering in the air in that direction, Helios said. I think we should contact the president first, West said. From the previous situation, Helios' mother was a black witch. She could summon 10 ghost ships. This was obvious. At least, none of them were confident that they could deal with her. If they encountered a black witch after being separated from Chinzhao, they would be in a very passive situation. So, they had to find Chinzhao first. Which direction did the president go? West asked. That direction, Lisa said. It's the same direction as Helios' mother. In other words, they're right behind her. We'll go in that direction too. Ah! Someone in the team suddenly screamed. The team tensed up and turned to look at the person. Half of the person's body had sunk into the ground. Frowning, Charning Layton had someone pull the person out of the ground. However, when the person was pulled out, The hole in the ground attracted Channing Leighton's attention again. Because it seemed to be empty below, Channing Leighton looked into the hole. There wasn't enough light, but he could still see clearly. There were countless skeletons buried below. There were adults and children. There were probably hundreds of skeletons in the 10-square-meter hole. Channing Leighton discovered that there was a cracked stone wall at the edge of the hole. There were broken stones under the wall. The back of the wall should be empty. "Go down and take a look," Channing Leighton said. One of the subordinates put on a searchlight hat and jumped down from the zip line. The subordinate glanced at the countless skeletons under his feet. With each step, the ground would creak. "Go in that direction and try the wall." Channing Leighton stood above and ordered the subordinate. The subordinate came to the wall and knocked on it with his hammer. A hollow sound came from the wall. "Boss, it's empty behind." "Knock it open," Channing Leighton said. The subordinate increased his strength and knocked the wall open. Pieces fell off layer by layer, revealing a tunnel. "Boss, it's a tunnel. It's very wide. Should they go in and explore?" Channing Leighton was hesitant. "Alger, go get Zoran and Emily. We need to discuss this with them." Soon, Zoran and Emily came over. "Did you find anything?" "See for yourselves. We discovered this." This seems to be the passageway to the ancient altar. I didn't think that you would be able to find this passageway." Zoran was somewhat surprised. "What ancient altar?" "This ancient altar is the altar used by the massacre, and the direction we are heading to now is the ancient altar." "In other words, the Black Witch's destination was the ancient altar?" "That's right. My ancestors have been studying the Saint Seco clan's plans for generations, but they have never found any useful clues. However, we feel that the Saint Seco clan might have left something in the ancient altar." "Then which way is faster to get to the ancient altar?" Channing Leighton asked. "The passage to the ancient altar is a passage for the nobles. Of course, the path below is faster. However, according to the family's records, this path is not that safe. Some of the traps were set up to prevent intruders. I don't know if these traps are still in use after thousands of years." "These ancient traps are nothing to worry about," Channing Leighton said calmly. "Also, it's best if we can stop the Black Witch from finding that thing in case something happens. So, we have to get to the ancient altar as soon as possible. If we get the thing first, it'll be more beneficial for us. What do you think?" "I agree." Zoran and Emily both accepted Channing Leighton's suggestion. Everyone entered the ancient passageway in a single file. "Be careful of that Asian." After entering the passageway, Channing Leighton told his subordinates, "If he does anything strange, shoot him dead." There was some distance between them, but Chun Zhao could still hear their conversation. However, Chun Zhao could not be bothered with them. "Who are these skeletons?" Alger asked. "Probably civilians who hid here during the massacre. They didn't dare to enter the passageway, so they squeezed in here." "No, they were killed," Chun Zhao interrupted. "There's only so much space. Even a few hundred people can't hide here, unless they were all killed and dumped here." Zoran glanced at Chun Zhao and did not say anything else. Just then, intense gunshots came from the front. Alger, Zoran, and Emily immediately sped up to the front of the group. "Uncle, what's wrong?" Channing Leighton frowned, a serious expression on his face. In the passageway not far away, there was a corpse. The corpse was rather strange. They could not tell what kind of creature it was. It had no head, tail, or front or back. There were only 4 symmetrical limbs with symmetrical claws. It was not big, perhaps the size of an orange cat. After being shot, its limbs were spread out on the ground. Its body seemed very light. "What is this?" Alger asked, confused. "Dark minions, monsters created by the Black Witch. According to my family's records, the Black Witch can summon thousands of dark minions. They don't need to eat anything and are completely obedient to the Black Witch. They can fight on land or in the water. They can climb onto walls or treetops and hide in the dark, then ambush when the enemy is unprepared. 1 or 2 dark minions might not be much of a threat, but if there's a large number of them, even an army will be crushed," Zoran said. "What a disgusting magical creature." Alger kicked the dark minion's corpse on the ground. Chun Zhao walked up and picked up the dark minions, looking left and right. The dark minions they spoke of were also called headless in hell. They were a rather delicious food. They could eat, but their mouths were underneath their bodies like octopuses. However, these things could not be cooked in normal ways. As for how to cook them, Chun Zhao had to contact the handsome guy when he was free and ask how to cook them. "Can you give this to me? What are you going to do with it?" Alger asked, frowning. "Eat," Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. Everyone looked at Chun Zhao with a strange expression. This guy must have gone crazy from hunger. He dares to eat something like this? Isn't he afraid of dying from eating it? Chapter 1085. Alger, keep an eye on him, Charning Ladon said. He didn't panic at all when he saw the dark minions. It doesn't look like it's his first time seeing magic creatures. Uncle, you suspect that he's with the Black Witch? That's possible, Charning Ladon said. Charning Ladon said, you said that he jumped off the ship before the Black Witch attacked the pirate ship. I don't think he did it to commit suicide, but to avoid the Black Witch's attack. Maybe he led the Black Witch to attack. Alger felt that Charning Ladon's explanation made sense. Take this and get close to him. Charning Ladon gave Alger a ring. There was a spirit stone embedded on it. If he's a spiritualist, the stone on the ring will light up. Okay, got it? It wasn't Alger's first time using the ring to test someone, so he was familiar with it. Alger pretended that nothing had happened and casually walked to Chun Zhao's side. He hid his hands in his pants pockets. However, he didn't see the pocket light up for a moment, but it quickly disappeared. The spirit stone could indeed test someone's magic power, but if it exceeded the limit, it would self-destruct, just like an electrical short circuit. Alger took out his hand and secretly glanced at the ring on it. It didn't light up. It seemed that he wasn't a spiritualist. Since he wasn't, his threat was greatly reduced. Even if he was related to the Black Witch, it didn't matter. There were many damages along the way, but they weren't from the corrosion of time. They looked like they'd been damaged by some sharp weapon. Judging from these traces, a battle had taken place here. Or maybe it was a massacre. The team would occasionally encounter a dark minions. Weird. Is the Black Witch crazy? Can these dark minions be a threat to us if they're released one by one? Charning Ladon was confused. He turned to Zoran and Emily. What do you think? I'm confused too. First, how did she know we were in the secret passage? Unless she was the one who arranged for us to enter the secret tunnel. Charning Ladon's heart skipped a beat. He abruptly turned his head and searched among his subordinates for the one who had sunk into the ground. You are a traitor. The man abruptly raised his head to look at Charning Ladon. Then, with lightning speed, he raised his gun and shot himself in the chin. Oh no, it's a trap. Alger panicked. Let's go. We can't go anymore. We're already in the middle of the secret passage. We can only go forward. There's no turning back. Just then, Chun Zhao suddenly said, I see. Everyone looked at him. What are you talking about? It's nothing. You guys continue. Chun Zhao finally figured out why the corpses at the entrance were acting strangely. At this moment, in the center of the island, the Black Witch Ava and her subordinates stood inside a huge ring-shaped altar. To the left of the ring-shaped altar was a huge lake. The lake was like a natural sapphire embedded in the center of the island. Master, the people from the Altheo family and the Ladon family have already entered the secret passage according to plan. A black-clothed woman came to Aiwa's side and said, In, then let's follow the plan. Aiwa said indifferently. Adam had been standing beside Ava in silence the whole time. He hadn't known Ava's plan before, but gradually he knew. The Altheo family and the Ladon family probably wouldn't even dream of it. They'd gotten his mother's whereabouts because his mother had purposely leaked it. It was to heavily injure them. Actually, it was a very simple scheme, but the effect was very good. That was to directly draw the lake water into the secret passage. At Ava's command, the barrier between the lake water and the secret passage's exit was immediately opened. Instantly, the lake water surged into the secret passage. Other than the lake water, many dark minions also surged into the passage. Dark minions could adapt to most environments. On land, their four limbs could run very fast. In the water, they could swim freely. He had to admit that his mother's vicious methods were something even he couldn't compare to. But he was very glad that at least he didn't have to be enemies with his mother. Rumble. What's that sound? Chan and Ladon asked, puzzled. At the same time, the airflow in the passage became very unstable, blowing toward the team in the passage. An ominous feeling rose in everyone's heart. Chen Zhao had already guessed it. He found a place with a handhold and grabbed the wall. What are you doing? There's water surging toward us, Chen Zhao said. What? Everyone paled in fright. But before they could react, the water was already rushing toward them. Instantly, the entire passage fell into chaos. Before it happened, Chen Zhao had already thought it through. The dark minions from before weren't there to attack the team. They were there to find out where the team was. If the team was too close to the passage, they would have a chance to retreat. Thus, he had to find out where the team was. Along the way, Chen Zhao realized that it was too clean. He thought of the bones in the deep pit when he'd entered. They hadn't been thrown down from above. They'd been in the passage when they were alive. Then, someone had let water wash them into the deep pit. Just then, something stuck to Chen Zhao's face. Chen Zhao pulled it down. It was actually a dark minion. This black, which was really meticulous. Just letting the lake water flow into the passage was enough to put them in danger. There were even dark minions mixed in the water. However, Chen Zhao realized that Shannon Ladon and the others weren't just sitting there waiting for death. They actually had portable breathing apparatus with them. Moreover, their weapons could be used freely in the water. Of course, at least half of them were washed away the moment the lake water rushed over. The backpacks on their backs could actually spit out strong air currents to push them forward. Their equipment is really good, Chen Zhao thought. Chan and Ladon looked back and saw Chen Zhao clinging to the wall. But he clearly didn't plan on helping. To him, Chen Zhao would definitely die. Without underwater thrusters or portable breathing apparatus, Chen Zhao didn't need the dark minions. The lake water alone could kill him. Therefore, he did not linger any longer and took the lead to rush forward. Seeing that the people who'd reacted had all left, Chen Zhao also started swimming forward. Chapter 1086. Channing Layton, Alga, Zoran, Emily, and their 20 subordinates all crawled out of the exit. Channing Layton looked at Ava and her 5 subordinates at the center of the altar. Ava, long time no see. Are you surprised to see me? Channing Layton's tone was filled with nostalgia. No, not at all. Channing Layton, I already knew that this little trick wouldn't kill you. Ava turned to look at Channing Layton. You have nowhere to run now. Channing Layton's tone suddenly changed, becoming filled with hatred. Now, it's time to settle the score between us. Do you think you can do it? Ava said unhurriedly. Cough, cough. Just then, another person crawled out of the secret passage. Chen Zhao wiped the water off his face. The weather is so good today. When Adam saw Chen Zhao, his brows furrowed. Mother, he's the person beside Hallie's. They call him President. Sir, hello. What's your name? Ava smiled at Chen Zhao. My friends call me Chen. Chen Zhao returned a smile. Are you Hallie's mother? Yes. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. If I tell you that I encourage your daughter to kill you, will you be angry? No. I'm very grateful that you brought my daughter to me. I haven't seen her in a long time. Ava was beautiful and very young. She didn't look like the mother of an 18 or 19-year-old girl at all. She didn't look like a 360-years-old woman either. Channing Layton and the others were confused. They didn't understand the relationship between Chen Zhao and Ava at all. Friends or enemies? Mr. Chun, you better stay away from them, Ava said, pointing at Channing Layton and the others. Why? Because I'm afraid you'll be affected, Ava said. With that, Ava said to her subordinates, Ellen. Yes, master. The witch called Irene walked out. Prepare for battle, Channing Layton ordered. He knew that someone who could follow Ava wouldn't be an ordinary person. However, this woman named Irene was not part of his battle plan. In the past, Ava had always been a loner. She had never had any subordinates. But now, she had so many subordinates around her. Please start your performance, Chen Zhao shouted, already hiding far away. Whether it was Irene, Channing Layton, or the rest, all of them had black lines on their faces. Shut up! Irene suddenly threw a stone at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao froze. The stone was neither fast nor big. Does she want to kill me with this stone? Chun Zhao's speed was at least one-third of the speed of sound. Even a regular person should be able to dodge it. Chun Zhao was about to mock him, but the pebble was already before him. But in the next instant, the stone suddenly grew bigger. Fuck! Chun Zhao immediately dodged. Rumble. The stone rolled away from Chun Zhao. What kind of magic was this? The pebble, which was originally the size of a pebble, became tens of thousands of times bigger. Seeing this, Channing Leighton immediately shouted, "Scatter, scatter!" Fortunately, Irene's first attack was aimed at Chun Zhao, so he discovered her magic. Irene took out 2 pistols and pointed them at Channing Leighton and the rest. Then she started shooting. The bullets that had been fired instantly multiplied, turning into huge bullets that flew out like cars. Bang, bang, bang. Channing Leighton and the rest covered their heads and scurried away. However, there were also people who did not dodge. As long as they were hit by the bullets, they would all be smashed into pieces. This magic is so interesting. Chun Zhao sat on the huge stone from before. But before he could even sit down, the stone suddenly disappeared. Chun Zhao almost fell to the ground. Chun Zhao realized that the stone had shrunk again. What a pity. Chun Zhao pouted. He'd thought that the stone would grow permanently, so it could only last less than a minute. With her 2 pistols, Irene completely suppressed Channing Leighton and the rest in terms of firepower. But Irene's marksmanship was probably from the same school as Chun Zhao. Random marksmanship. Fortunately, Irene's marksmanship was super bad. Otherwise, Channing Leighton and the rest would probably all be dead. Bang! Irene suddenly jumped away. A hole had appeared on the ground where she'd been standing. Irene's muzzle immediately turned to the other side of the forest and fired. The bullet destroyed several large trees like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. A figure rolled out. It was Domingo. Domingo's body was very agile. As he rolled, he fired another shot at Ellen. Blood bloomed on Irene's arm. She had to abandon her gun and retreat. "Master, I'm sorry." Irene returned injured. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Ava. "It's okay, child. You did well." Ava smiled faintly. "Practice more marksmanship next time." Ava could tell that even if Irene wasn't injured, she wouldn't be able to last long. After all, her multiplying spell was very mana-consuming. She wouldn't be able to keep using amplification for too long. Channing Leighton and the rest finally heaved a sigh of relief. There had been 20 people, but only 10 were left now. Fortunately, Domingo had arrived. Otherwise, they might really have been killed by one of Ava's subordinates. "Alger, are you okay?" Domingo called. "Domingo, thank goodness you came." Alger was very happy to see Domingo. At this moment, another team appeared from another direction. Chun Zhao's pirates had finally arrived. Ava looked to the left and right. "Great. Looks like everyone's here." Ava was very happy. "Healy Eyes, are you okay?" "Mother, I'm here to kill you. Are you ready?" Healy Eyes' face was cold. "Huh? Healy Eyes, I haven't seen you for so many years. You've become so humorous." FIOS, on the other hand, was confused. What was going on here? Who were the people in the middle? She was probably the only person who was completely unrelated to the situation at the scene. "What exactly is it that gave you the illusion that you can kill me?" AI smiled and asked. "Is it him? Did he encourage you?" "No. From the moment I found out the truth, I've always wanted to kill you. It's the only thing I'm passionate about." "Healy Eyes, don't be afraid. Go. I'll cover for you." Chapter 1087. FIOS looked at Chun Zhao. What was wrong with this guy, who encouraged their daughter to kill their mother? Also, wasn't that Asian supposed to be their enemy? Smiling, Ava looked at Helith. "Helith, you've indeed grown, but it's not enough." "Is that so?" 11 silhouettes appeared beside Helith. FIOS rubbed her eyes. What was going on? Was she seeing things? Chun Zhao looked at the sky. It was broad daylight and the sun was bright. Could Helith's evil spirit servants use their full power? Ava didn't move. She still smiled at Helith. At this moment, another witch beside Ava walked out. "Master, let me do it." "Okay, go." Ava nodded. "Melinda, don't kill her. She's my daughter after all." The witch called Melinda had a rather cold attitude. She nodded and walked forward. The others took the initiative to retreat, including Ava. Go away, Helith said coldly. This is between me and her. If you don't want to die, go away. Melinda's eyes widened. Countless electric arcs exploded from her body. The surrounding ground was all pierced by the electric arcs. Gravel flew everywhere. Melinda pointed at Helith. The electric arcs also shot at Helith. Taken aback, Helith hurriedly turned into mist and dispersed. But as soon as she moved and recovered, the electric arcs chased after her again. Helith had no choice but to change directions again. Theos's eyes almost popped out. Had she transmigrated? Was this still the world she'd been in? Were they fighting with superpowers? Just then, a figure suddenly appeared behind Melinda. Everyone was stunned. Why did Chun Zhao suddenly intervene? Chun Zhao put a hand on Melinda's shoulder. At the same time, he turned to Ava. Sorry, I'm interested in her. Get someone else. With that, Chun Zhao dragged Melinda to the side. Let go. Electric arcs exploded from Melinda. But Chun Zhao didn't even pause. It was as if he didn't feel the shock at all. Only the people of the association knew that the witch called Melinda would never be able to do anything in Chun Zhao's hands. Judging from the amount of electricity Melinda emitted, it probably couldn't even touch a hair on Chun Zhao's body. Chun Zhao dragged Melinda to the edge. Is that all you got? Can you make it bigger? Ava narrowed her eyes at Chun Zhao. She had no intention of saving Melinda. She was analyzing the spells Chun Zhao was good at. To be able to withstand Melinda's lightning magic, could it be that he was also of the lightning element? Hearing that, Melinda was furious. No one had ever said that the voltage was too low to her face. Go to hell. Melinda increased her mana output to the maximum. She also grabbed Chun Zhao's wrist. Sizzle. All the electricity surged into his body. But Chun Zhao was still unmoved. Chun Zhao squeezed Melinda's shoulder hard, and she screamed. Ah, increase it. It's not enough. Not enough at all. Chun Zhao was charging the eye of the thunder. Sure enough, affected by the pain, Melinda once again increased the output of magic power. By now, Fiona was completely dumbfounded. Her brain was a mess, and disbelief was written all over her face. What was wrong with her? Or was there something wrong with the world? Ava looked at Chun Zhao and said to her subordinates, Go save Melinda. Irene, give Michelle a multiplication spell. Michelle roared, the veins on her body bulging. She was the same type as Gaia. She was tall and strong. Irene endured the pain and gave Michelle a multiplication spell. Michelle's body suddenly grew bigger. Everyone's eyeballs almost fell out. Although Irene's multiplication spell wasn't as crazy as pebbles or bullets, it was still enough to shock everyone. Michelle had turned into a 10-meter-tall giant. At the moment, Michelle had turned into a 10-meter-tall giant. With every step he took, the ground shook. Chun Zhao grinned and raised his right arm. A bolt of lightning shot out from the mouth of Gluttony. Poof! The bolt of lightning pierced through Michelle's chest and blasted a bloody hole in it. Michelle's huge body fell to the ground and didn't move anymore. Ava's pupils suddenly constricted. What powerful power! He was indeed a lightning element wizard. He'd captured Melinda to absorb her electricity. Luckily, Michelle had tested him. If she'd been hit by him without knowing, she would have been injured too. He and Melinda were both lightning element wizards, but his lightning element spell was clearly much stronger than Melinda's. After all, Michelle was also a strengthening element wizard. With Irene's multiplication spell, his strength had increased by more than 10 times. Even Ava might not be able to kill Michelle instantly, but this man could do it in one move. It was enough to show how terrifying he was. However, now that he knew about his magic, he was no longer a threat to him. As long as she was careful, he wouldn't be able to defeat her. A smile appeared on Ava's face again. Irene sneaked a glance at Ava. Actually, when AI gave her the order to cast the multiplying magic on Michelle, she knew that AI wanted Michelle to die. This was because multiplication magic couldn't be used on humans. No living creature could. Creatures that used multiplication magic would immediately collapse after the magic's effect ended. Ah! Melinda screamed again. Chun Zhao crushed another of her bones. Who told you to stop? Continue. Everyone in the association knew that Qinzhao had a bad habit. Battlefield disruptor. Whether he was facing a strong enemy or not, Qinzhao would always have that indifferent attitude. Also, he would always harass them without distinguishing between friend and foe. In any case, he could do as he pleased and do as he pleased. Fortunately, the association was used to it. Ava glanced at the people beside her. Michelle was dead and Melinda had been captured. Only Adam and Irene were left. Irene was injured again. In addition to the battle just now, she'd lost 70% of her magic. She couldn't continue fighting anymore. "Uncle, should we help?" Alger asked in a low voice. "Help who?" Shannon Layton asked. "Of course." Alger suddenly realized that they were both enemies. "We're not in a hurry. When they're both injured, we'll attack. Then, my secret weapon will definitely be able to win. It's specially prepared for the Black Witches." Charning Layton held a glass bottle in his hand. Specks of light rippled inside. These specks of light collided, fused, and split in the glass bottle. Chapter 1088. The hunters all had the mentality of watching a good show, but no one could have imagined that an unforeseen event would occur. Blood suddenly bloomed from the back of Charning Layton's head. His body fell heavily to the ground. Then, Domingo grabbed the glass bottle and ran in Ava's direction. "Master, this is for you." Domingo held the glass bottle with both hands and handed it to Ava respectfully. Shock was written all over everyone's faces. Domingo was a traitor? "Uncle!" Alger picked up Charning Layton's body and roared in grief and indignation. "Domingo!" Even Ava and Adam, beside Ava, didn't expect Domingo to be on their side. "Good boy." Ava took the glass bottle, her face full of pride. FIOS already knew that Domingo wasn't a good person, but she didn't expect Domingo to do something so shameless. Ava held the glass bottle. "It's so beautiful. I didn't expect Layton to care so much about me. He even took out Satan's blood. It must have been hard on him." Ava looked at Domingo, who lowered his head in fear and trepidation to show his respect to Ava. "Domingo, you shouldn't have killed Layton so quickly. After all, he's the father of one of my children." The reason why Charning Layton hated AI so much was because they had a past. Of course, Charning Layton didn't know Ava's identity at all at that time. Ava had disappeared after giving birth to their child, and when she reappeared, she snatched their child away. Not long after, Charning Layton received something: his child's corpse. He couldn't imagine what kind of woman she was. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. This idiom definitely didn't apply to her. Qinzhao heard Ava murmur to herself. He couldn't help but look at the glass bottle in Ava's hand. The glass bottle looked more like bound starlight. It didn't look like liquid at all. This thing was called Satan's blood? Qinzhao took out another phone and called the handsome guy. "Hey, handsome, is it convenient for you to video call now?" "Yes." "Do you recognize what that woman's holding?" "Huh, that's my blood." "Is it really your blood?" Qinzhao was surprised. Qinzhao had thought that it was something really awesome, so he named it Satan's blood. But now, the little handsome boy had admitted that it was his blood. Qinzhao found it hard to believe. "Why is your blood in the human world?" "No, I should say, who can make you bleed? That is the blood I personally bestowed in the ancient era. What's the use?" The thing in the bottle in her hand should be able to destroy all life in the 10 mountains, the handsome young man said. "Everything can't survive? How do I block it?" "I can't," the handsome young man replied calmly. "Am I unable to block it now?" "The power in the bottle is calculated in terms of range. Unless you have the strength of a demon king, there is no possibility of resisting it. The killing range will be as large as it can cause." "In other words, I'm dead meat?" "No, I can help you." "How are you going to help me?" "Your power can't seep into the human world, right?" As the demon king, the handsome young man's strength was undeniable. Even Samuel could project a tiny clone. But the handsome young man couldn't even send a sliver of his power into the human world. "My power can't seep into the human world, but that bottle contains my blood. I can control it." That scared me. Qinzhao patted his chest. "But if your power can't seep into the human world, why can your blood appear here?" "That's a different concept. All rules have loopholes. If I'm willing to waste my blood, I can also pollute the entire human world, but it's meaningless to me, the handsome young man said. Even if the blood in the bottle is only a millionth of my blood, it can still cause a disaster in the human world. Chun Zhao was speechless. A millionth of his blood could cause a disaster. He was already powerful enough in the human world, but before this power, he seemed so insignificant. Then I can jump again. Remember the spell I taught you? Are you talking about that amazing spell? Yes, the handsome young man said. The handsome boy said, if that woman releases my blood, then you can activate that magic. I will also help you control it. You won't be hurt. Understood. Right now, everyone was rather dissatisfied with Chun Zhao. Because of this tense situation, Chun Zhao was actually making a call here, and a video call at that. As for the people from the association, they were already used to it. It wasn't Chun Zhao's first time making a call in such a tense atmosphere. Ava felt like her reputation had been damaged. Mr. Chun, do you want to know if this thing in my hand can kill you? Come quickly. I know this thing is called Satan's blood. I know this thing can destroy everything on this island if I throw it out, but unfortunately, it's useless against me. After Chun Zhao found out that he wouldn't die, he showed an arrogant attitude, not afraid of AI at all. Ava narrowed her eyes at Chun Zhao. Since you know this is called Satan's blood, how dare you bluff in front of me? Whoever's a coward is a coward. Once Satan's blood was released, no living creature could escape the fate of annihilation. Even the holder couldn't avoid it. Anyway, it was just a nuclear bomb thrown at close range. No matter who got it, it would be a move that would kill them all. So, to use Satan's blood, one had to have the courage to use it first. Seeing Chun Zhao so crazy, Ava was completely speechless. She felt that Chun Zhao knew that she wouldn't dare to use it. That was why his attitude was so arrogant. Even if you don't use it, you won't be able to escape death, Ava said calmly. Suddenly, a grenade exploded under Ava's feet. However, AI stood there unscathed. The flames from the explosion were blocked by the fog around her body. Which? Your opponent is me, Alger roared. Shoot. Channing Layton's death had made Alger completely lose his mind. Zoran and Emily had no choice but to participate in the battle because they were already in the same boat as Alger. Everyone was pouring all their ammunition towards AI and the others. You're asking for death. Ava snorted and a mist surged toward them. Death mist. Helitha's expression changed slightly. Chapter 1089. Recently, because of his schedule had been reversed. He tried to correct his schedule, but it ended in failure. Every day, he didn't have enough sleep, and his mind was groggy. Seeing that the double monthly votes for this month was getting further and further away from him, he felt anxious. Chapter 1090. Ava's fog of death was even larger than Helios's. The fog of death swept past Alger and the others, instantly enveloping them in the fog. Then, they heard the panicked cries of the figures in the fog, as well as cries for help. A ball of flame exploded in the fog. Alger fell out and scrambled out of the fog. His body was severely burned. In order to avoid the erosion of the fog of death, he directly used a grenade to explode at close range. He used the explosive impact of the grenade to blast away the fog of death, thus saving his life. Alger had always heard how terrifying the Black Witch was. However, he never believed that a woman could fight against an elite team. Only now did he realize that the Black Witch was more terrifying than he had imagined. None of the familiar faces walked out of the fog of death. When the fog of death dissipated, 10 corpses were left. Their faces were still filled with panic, fear, and despair. Alger lay on the ground, tears streaming down his face. Dead. They're all dead. Alger propped himself up with difficulty and looked at Ava and Domingo. His eyes were filled with hatred. Your eyes are the same as your uncle's. Ava smiled at Alger. She seemed to be enjoying the pleasure brought by this gaze. Suddenly, 2 black shadows shrouded Ava. Helios launched a sneak attack. The 2 corpse demons attacked AI. Ava's face showed a hint of mockery. A black shadow also appeared behind her, taller than Helios's 2 corpse demons. It was taller than the 2 corpse demons combined, and Ava's corpse demon skin was covered with a layer of metal. Ava's corpse demon grabbed the necks of Helios's 2 corpse demons with both hands, and won by absolute advantage despite fighting 1 against 2. Helios's 2 corpse demons kept waving their fists, attacking Ava from beginning to end. But their fists were no threat to Ava's corpse demons. Ava said lightly, "This is the guardian of the family, Helios. You are more outstanding than I imagined." Another 10 corpse demons appeared behind Ava. These 10 corpse demons were the same as Ava's 2 guardians. Helios's expression changed again. She could only summon 2 corpse demons, but her mother could summon 11, and one of them was stronger than the 2 of them. Now, do you understand the gap between us? FIOS looked at the scene nervously. She didn't even know who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. The 10 guardian corpses summoned by AI attacked them. Rissa raised her arms. Heat blasts. The 2 demonic corpses were sent flying by the impact. Fiona's eyes almost popped out. It turned out that Lisa was so powerful. Wes pointed between his eyebrows. Slow. The movements of the 8 guardian corpse demons in front of him suddenly became slow, just like in a movie in slow motion. Klaus and the others made their move. Guns and cannons rained down on the guardian corpse demon's body. Klaus rushed to the side of the guardian corpse demon, climbed up, threw a grenade into the mouth of a guardian corpse demon, and flipped down. The whole process was so smooth that Fiona was dumbfounded. It was like watching the main character in an action movie. Aiwa saw that Heli's companions were quite strong. He immediately recalled the guardian corpse demon. Repairing these guardian corpse demons was not easy. He needed a lot of magic materials. You guys are not bad. If you surrender now and serve me, you can keep your lives. Then you better ask our boss, Klaus said flippantly with a gun on his shoulder. Chun Zhao had a great influence on him. In the past, Klaus never joked on the battlefield. But now, Klaus would always find the time to tease his enemies in the most tense moments. Aiwa looked at Chun Zhao. You? I agree to give you this chance. Serve me. Last time, someone also asked me to serve you, Chun Zhao said. I said I could consider it, but he rejected my conditions. As long as you're willing to serve me, I can accept any condition. For example, give me a striptease? Aiwa's expression darkened. No wonder you rejected it. You'll die. Aiwa's voice was filled with coldness and murderous intent. The first corpse demon Aiwa summoned charged at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao raised his right arm again. Bang! This attack was even stronger than before. Half of the corpse demon's body was gone. Aiwa narrowed her eyes. This guy was indeed difficult to deal with. No wonder they were so loyal to him. Just then, the sky gradually darkened. Aiwa's magic was stronger too. Necromancy magic was more powerful after dark, to begin with. Aiwa clawed at Chun Zhao from dozens of meters away. A huge bone prison appeared beside Chun Zhao. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Chun Zhao shattered the bone prison. Let's be serious so we can finish early and eat supper, Chun Zhao said. Show me your ultimate move. Do you want to see the magic I'm most proud of? Then I'll fulfill your wish. Ava raised her arms. The magic in her body was being released. Suddenly, FIOS felt her heart palpitate. It was as if something disturbing was about to happen. Just then, a dozen wobbly skeletons walked out of the grass beside the altar. The eyes of these skeleton soldiers shone with green light as they staggered forward. Are you kidding me? This is the magic you're proud of? Chun Zhao said, rolling his eyes. But just then, more skeletons climbed out of the lake. The number of skeleton soldiers kept increasing, and they were appearing from all directions. All the dead on the island seemed to have been awakened by Aiwa. No one is my match on this island, Aiwa said confidently. Especially since this is the center of the island. I can easily summon tens of thousands of skeletons. Chun Zhao looked at the surrounding forest and saw even more green eyes in the forest. There were also many green dots of light in the lake. They were climbing ashore. Chun Zhao shot out an electric ball from his right arm. It landed among the skeletons by the lake. Dozens of skeleton soldiers were destroyed, but more and more skeleton soldiers came ashore. I'll ask you one last time. Submit or die. Let's do a striptease. Kill. Crack, crack, crack. Countless skeletons surged toward the altar from all directions. There were too many skeletons. Chun Zhao didn't hold back at all. He would kill as many as came from his direction. Every time he fired it, it brought him great pleasure. But after a dozen shots, Chun Zhao realized that they were a bit muted. Chapter 1091. Chun Zhao looked around. She's gone? Looking back, he saw a few skeleton soldiers dragging Megan away while Chun Zhao was distracted. Seeing that Megan had returned to her side, Ava turned to Chun Zhao. What are you going to do now? Ava had the attitude of a victor. She guessed that Chun Zhao had interfered in the battle between Megan and Helios because he'd realized that Megan could recharge him. Now that Megan was back in his hands, he'd be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered after Chun Zhao ran out of electricity. Klaus, I'll leave the battlefield to you guys, Chun Zhao said. President's going to slack off again. Jolig and Padalu were part of the logistics team. Their combat abilities were average. Their spells were all related to the assembly of machinery. Chun Zhao had brought them along because they were responsible for the Conqueror's maintenance and stability. Wes was part of the think tank. He also had good support abilities. The Field of Sluggishness, which was derived from his thinking spell, could slow down the enemy when they were within range of movement. Facing the skeleton army, the main forces were still the Lightning Team, Helios, Pain, and Eric. In particular, Pain and Eric were the most positive. A single skeleton soldier wasn't a threat to them. But now, they were facing a sea of skeleton soldiers. Even if they had enough guns and ammunition, they'd die of exhaustion. Who knew how many people were buried on this island? It was a huge graveyard. FIOS was already trembling in fear. She should be the most useless one out of everyone. Of course, it wasn't correct to say that she was completely useless. Her battle record was 1 skeleton soldier. Thankfully, she was surrounded by the pirates. She had a pistol in her hand. Lisa wasn't strong either. She'd used up most of her heat energy against the 2 Guardian Corpse demons. The sky was dark again, and the temperature was much lower. The amount of heat she could absorb was very limited. Moreover, if she absorbed heat energy without any worries, the first to suffer wouldn't be the enemies, but her companions. As a result, her usefulness on the battlefield was very limited. Ava looked at the battlefield and then at Chun Zhao, who wasn't involved. Ellen, how's your mana recovery? I've recovered 30% of my mana, Ellen said. AI Was summoned a Guardian Corpse demon and said to Ellen, give it multiplying magic. Master, I'm afraid I can only use multiplication on such a large body once. Once is enough, Ava said indifferently. That was the only value Ellen had left. Irene could only cast amplification on the Guardian Ghoul. The Guardian Corpse demon, who was originally 5 meters tall, transformed into a 15-meter giant after using the multiplication spell, which was even bigger than Michelle. After using magic, Ellen's body became even weaker. Under Ava's control, the corpse demon charged toward Chun Zhao. Everyone held their breath and looked at the giant in disbelief. But before the giant could reach Chun Zhao, he suddenly tripped and fell in front of Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao lifted the bronze sword and cut off the giant's head. The people from the association looked as if they had known this would happen. Ava's expression was completely frozen. She had actually used this to test Chun Zhao. She didn't know if what Chun Zhao said about running out of electricity was true or not. Thus, she didn't dare to attack Chun Zhao first. That was why she used Guardian Corpse Demon and Multiplication Spell to test him. To her, if Chun Zhao really ran out of electricity, he would definitely be killed. If he didn't, then he would have to use the last bit of electricity to kill him. But the result made her jaw drop. The Guardian Corpse Demon actually tripped, which was something that had never happened before. In the end, Chun Zhao even cut off the Corpse Demon's head. You're just here to die, right? Chun Zhao sneered. Aiwa's face was green. She summoned the remaining Corpse Demons again. Kill him. Chun Zhao turned and ran. Guardian Corpse Demon chased after him. Chun Zhao ran into the small forest. Naturally, the Corpse Demon followed him. But in less than 30 seconds, Chun Zhao walked out. But those Corpse Demons didn't come out again. Aiwa's pupils suddenly contracted. What happened? How did he destroy those corpse demons? AI's heart ached when her corpse demons were all destroyed. But now wasn't the time to feel heartache. I want you to die. Can you do it? On the other side, the people from the association were in a tough battle. The lightning squad's ammunition was starting to run out. The others had used up more than half of their mana too. No, we can't continue like this. Move toward the president. Everyone started moving toward Chun Zhao consciously. President, we can't hold on anymore. I can still fight, Helios said. She had the most mana right now. After all, she'd absorbed the mana of 12 siblings. FIOS looked at Chun Zhao. She realized that the Asian who'd seemed the weakest was now like their spiritual pillar. But could he really turn the situation around? Facing such a hellish situation, did he really have a solution? Help me kill the Black Witch and Domingo. I'll pay $50 million. Alger had been fighting alone. Right now, he was filled with determination to die. But his power alone was really insignificant. He was worried that Chun Zhao and the others would choose to retreat, so he threw out the bait. At the very least, compared to him alone, Chun Zhao and the others had a higher chance of defeating the Black Witch. I'm not your mercenary. I don't accept your offer. President, we'll probably have to earn some extra money this time, Wes said, troubled. Wes said awkwardly, this time, the ship we rented sank. We have to compensate the chartering company at least $30 million. Also, that armed helicopter is legal military equipment. It cost $12 million. So, we lost more than $40 million. Chun Zhao asked in shock, his eyes wide. Wes nodded, troubled. This doesn't include our labor costs. Chun Zhao turned to Alger. How you plan to pay? Do you have the money? My uncle is dead. I'm the only heir to the family business now. Alger wasn't happy about this. He kept blaming himself for trusting the wrong person. A friend he knew had killed his uncle. Because Charnington didn't have any children, he'd always raised and taken care of Alger like his own. Chapter 1092. Do you want him alive? That traitor, Chun Zhao asked. You can capture him alive? Alger asked in surprise. That's a bit more expensive. The people from the association all looked away. Chun Zhao was raising the price again. Sure, any price is fine. Don't be so vague. Name a price. If it's suitable, I'll capture him alive for you. Add 20 million, Alger said. Then Chun Zhao said to West, this 20 million is my personal income, not the association's. Okay, President. Chun Zhao started stretching his limbs and looked at Ava and Domingo. Domingo immediately tensed up. At the same time, he took a step behind Ava. Ava waved her hand, and hundreds of skeleton soldiers gathered in front of them. Did you ask me if you want to capture my people? Then do you agree if I want to capture your people? No. Chun Zhao suddenly burst out with full speed. All the skeleton soldiers in a straight line were instantly scattered. There were hundreds of skeleton soldiers in front of Ava, but there were only 20 to 30 in a straight line. Chun Zhao burst out with full speed. Almost no creature could react. Ava's nerves tensed up. Before she could react, Chun Zhao was already before her. He's not a lightning mage? Chun Zhao slapped Ava away and grabbed Domingo with his other hand. In the blink of an eye, Chun Zhao returned to the crowd. FIOS stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. What happened just now? Alger was also dumbfounded. Shock and disbelief were written all over his face. Then he looked at Domingo in Chun Zhao's hand. Domingo wasn't dead, but without any protection, he had to endure the high-speed air pressure. He felt like his entire body was falling apart. He couldn't even stand up. He's yours now. Chun Zhao tossed Domingo before Alger. Ava covered her face and stood up. She was also shocked. What's wrong with this man? What's with that monstrous speed? President, I want him alive too. I want to kill that woman with my own hands, Helios said. No problem. Chun Zhao was always generous with his subordinates' requests. Ava immediately gathered all the skeleton soldiers together. He had seen Chun Zhao's speed. She really had no confidence in dealing with that kind of speed. The only thing he could do now was to increase the density of the space around him and slow him down. The entire altar was already filled with densely packed skeletons, surrounding AI, Wa, and the rest. Turn around. 3 seconds, Chun Zhao ordered. He really didn't want his clone to be naked in front of his subordinates. This was truly damaging to the president's reputation and prestige. Rissa pulled FIOS, who was still in a daze. Do you want to die? FIOS quickly turned around. 3, 2, 1. Done. When FIOS turned around again, she saw that there were 12 clones around Chun Zhao. Every doppelganger was wearing tight clothes. Kill. The 12 clones moved in unison. The 12 clones were 12 unstoppable monsters. They killed their way into the group of skeletons, as if they were crushing dry weeds and rotten wood. Although the number of skeleton soldiers was astonishing, if they were piled up together, they would lose their advantage in numbers. After all, they couldn't even move the skeleton soldiers on the inside. Moreover, their bones would collide with each other or entangle with each other. The killing efficiency of the 12 clones was simply too high. Aiwa's expression was solemn. If this continued, all the skeleton soldiers she summoned would be killed. She had to stop the clones from sweeping through. Aiwa directly released the death mist. Seeing the death mist cover over, Chun Zhao raised his right arm. The mouth of gluttony open. More than half of the death mist was devoured by the mouth of gluttony. Black Alice, the rest is yours. Assimilate as many as you can. Yes, President. Aldra looked at Chun Zhao. So this man was the real boss. Someone as strong as Aiwa was a centuries-old legend. Before this man, she actually couldn't resist at all. Adam's face was also filled with shock. This was the first time. It was the first time he saw his mother being restrained by another person. Aiwa was also a bit panicked now, because she realized that she couldn't understand what magic element Chun Zhao had at all. But she didn't completely admit defeat. Go die. Aiwa finally took out her trump card. Above the altar, 10 ghost ships appeared. On the ghost ships, countless evil spirits were roaring, letting out sharp and terrifying howls. In total, there were about 4,000 to 5,000 evil spirits on the 10 ghost ships. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed. Even Adam and Ellen felt that Aiwa was invincible. Although Chun Zhao had displayed great power earlier, but facing Aiwa's true killing move, it still seemed insignificant. Seeing these ghost ships, Fiona immediately thought of the attack they'd encountered on the sea. Do you really think you can beat me? Aiwa looked at Chun Zhao. You're too naive. What happened earlier was just an appetizer. The war has just begun. Chun Zhao silently took out a perfect angelic crystal. With a smile, he said, coincidentally, I'm also warming up. Stubborn. I hope you can still say this to me so easily later. I'll just stand still. If your ghost ships can make me move one step, then I lose. Chun Zhao crossed his arms. Mr. Chun, these ghost ships are very scary. Don't be careless. Aldra felt that Chun Zhao was too arrogant. He'd seen how scary the ghost ships were with his own eyes. He felt that even Chun Zhao had to face them seriously. He shouldn't be arrogant and face them with such an arrogant and contemptuous attitude. It's none of your business. Why do you care so much? Wes glanced at Alger. Alger immediately shut up. He couldn't help but curse inwardly. My good intentions aren't rewarded. Let's see how your boss dies later. However, Alger clearly didn't understand the inner thoughts of the people of the association. If Aiwa had summoned 10 warships, she might have been able to defeat Chun Zhao. However, she had summoned 10 specter ships. She definitely didn't know that Chun Zhao's strongest ability was to restrain spirit bodies. In the past, when Chun Zhao faced spirit enemies, he'd often let Blackie fight. But this didn't mean that Chun Zhao couldn't deal with spirit bodies. Plus, to Chun Zhao, the most effective way to deal with spirit bodies didn't even need to fight. He could use angelic crystals directly. Normal spirit bodies would be turned to ashes by the light emitted by angelic crystals. As for perfect angelic crystals, they were obtained from monster-level enemies. Perfect angelic crystals were like nuclear reactors. They didn't need to receive light. Chapter 1093. At Ava's command, the 10 ghost ships rammed into Chun Zhao. The association members all stood behind Chun Zhao, even though they were very confident in Chun Zhao. Although they were very confident in Chun Zhao, their hearts were still pounding when they faced the 10 ghost ships. If Chun Zhao couldn't stop them, they would probably die too. But just then, the first ghost ship that approached Chun Zhao showed signs of disappearing without any warning. First, the bow disappeared. As the ship continued forward, the body disappeared too. The evil spirit crew on the ghost ship also disappeared. They didn't even have a chance to resist. They turned into ashes under everyone's gaze. Chun Zhao, on the other hand, had been standing there with his arms crossed. He didn't move at all. He didn't even move his feet. The entire ghost ship turned into ashes just like that. Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. No one knew how Chun Zhao had done it. The entire process was so unimaginable. The second ghost ship arrived as scheduled, but the result was the same. It disappeared when it was less than 5 meters away from Chun Zhao. The people of the association knew that Chun Zhao was very good at dealing with spirits, but this unbelievable method still made their eyeballs fall out. Alger kept staring at Chun Zhao in shock. He wanted to see how Chun Zhao had done it. Perhaps Chun Zhao had used some unknown spell. But after staring for a long time, he still didn't understand, because Chun Zhao really hadn't moved at all. The third ghost ship, the fourth, the fifth, these ghost ships charged at Chun Zhao one after another, but without exception, they all disappeared when they were 5 meters away from Chun Zhao. Ava finally stopped the ghost ship's suicidal attacks. Compared to the others, Ava was even more shocked. Because she'd used this spell, she knew better than anyone how powerful the ghost ships were. But Chun Zhao had destroyed 5 ghost ships without any effort. From the beginning to the end, she didn't understand how Chun Zhao had done it. Ava's expression grew more and more serious. The Asian in front of her was the most threatening of all the enemies she had ever encountered. Why did you stop? Continue? I'm still hoping for a ghost ship to appear in front of me. Everyone rolled their eyes. Did he think that the Black Witches were stupid? If she still couldn't understand at this point, then she was really stupid. If he sent the ghost ship to attack Chun Zhao, wouldn't that be suicidal? Right at this moment, Aiwa's heart trembled, and she suddenly raised her head to look at the sky. Adam and Helith had the same reaction. They seemed to have sensed something. Chun Zhao heard Horrid whisper, "It's coming." "What's here?" Chun Zhao asked, confused. "The red star, Beto's comet, is coming." Chun Zhao also looked up at the sky. At this time, what appeared in the night sky was not a sky full of stars, but endless darkness. And at the edge of the darkness, there seemed to be a red light shrouding it. The red light was spreading across the entire sky. At this moment, everyone felt the ground shake. It was as if something was about to break out of the ground. In the center of the altar was a circular hole. Something red was seeping out of the hole. Blood? Blood? Fresh blood flowed along the patterns on the ground of the altar, spreading in all directions. "The Agama Bridge is about to appear," Aiwa said excitedly, excitement written all over her face. She seemed to have forgotten about the current situation and her great enemy, Chun Zhao. The red star finally streaked across the sky. However, this red star did not flash past like a meteor. Instead, it dragged a slender red tail and moved slowly. Blood was still seeping out from the center of the altar. It had already spread to half of the altar. Now both sides had tacitly stopped fighting. They seemed to be waiting for the so-called Agama Bridge. "Helith, walk to the center of the altar," Chun Zhao said. Helith nodded and walked to the center of the altar. Seeing Helith come over, Aiwa immediately shouted, "Stop! This is mine. No one can touch it." It was obvious that Aiwa was very nervous. "I don't care what comes out later. It's Helith's anyway." Chun Zhao looked at Aiwa. "Do you want a way to live forever? I can give you a way to live forever." Aiwa threw out a bait. She had once used this condition to attract many people to submit to her. Humans could not resist this tempting condition. Everyone looked at Chun Zhao, even Helith. Even she felt tempted, let alone Chun Zhao. Thus, Helith could not guarantee that Chun Zhao would be tempted and help Aiwa. Chun Zhao shrugged. "Sorry, I'm not interested. I think your so-called way to live forever must have a lot of restrictions. Then, you'll make yourself neither human nor ghost." Hearing Chun Zhao's reply, Aiwa was furious. Helith, on the other hand, heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, she looked at Qinzhao with even more admiration. Just then, the red giant finally reached the sky above the altar. Helith, Aiwa, and Adam all felt the blood in their bodies send a voice to them. Helith seemed to have suddenly understood. She took out Nasamara's awl and stabbed it into her palm. She let her blood drip onto the altar. Aiwa and Adam's expressions darkened when they saw Nasamara's awl in Helith's hand. Why was this thing in Helith's hands? Suddenly, Nasamara's awl left Helith's control and flew toward the center of the altar. A beam of red light shot down from the sky and landed at the center of the altar. At the same time, it enveloped Nasamara's awl. After receiving the red light from Comet Betos, Nasamara's awl became completely transparent. Then, the red light refracted through Nasamara's awl and turned into a colorful beam that shot into the hole in the center of the altar. A blood-colored key slowly appeared from the hole in the center of the altar. Chun Zhao raised an eyebrow. It's a key? Did the Sansiko family want to make a key? It's mine! Aiwa yelled and charged toward the blood-colored key. Helith also charged toward the blood-colored key at the same time. But just then, the blood-colored key suddenly exploded. The moment the blood-red key exploded, a shockwave spread in all directions. Everyone was pushed away from the center of the altar. Thankfully, the destructive power of the shockwave was not too great. Helith was not hurt. On the contrary, Helith seemed to be in high spirits. Helith looked at her hands in disbelief. President, my magic power seems to have become stronger. Chapter 1094. Helith's magic had become stronger, but so had Ava. Plus, her increase was much greater than Helith's. Lord of the Deep, Morabit, Constant Sella, listen to my call and descend upon the world with your majestic figures. Ava called out loudly. 3 black holes with a diameter of 20 meters appeared in front of Ava. First, an arm reached out from the middle black hole. Qinzhao was very familiar with the arm. Then, the same arm appeared from the left and right black holes. 3 abyss demons climbed out of the 3 black holes. Human, it's you? When the demon in the middle saw Qinzhao, his face was filled with ecstasy. Did you not expect us to meet again so soon? And this time, I appear before you in my complete form? President, do you know him? Not really, Qinzhao said. Someone summoned him in the past, but in an incomplete form. Then I humiliated him, and he ran back to hell with his tail between his legs. Before he left, he even left a flag. FIOS stared at Qinzhao. Just how daring did this guy have to be? He dared to provoke everything. Everyone's heart was pounding. The aura emanating from these 3 abyssal demons caused them to feel a deep chill. Are you too scared to move now? The demon in the middle looked down at Qinzhao. Remember my name, Morabit, because your soul will be imprisoned and tortured by me forever. Lord Morabit, time is limited. Please kill him as soon as possible. Ava's tone was filled with sincerity and humility. She didn't have the arrogance she had when facing others. However, the current Aiwa was no longer the same. She didn't understand what was going on either. Her magic power had increased by several times. In the past, she could barely summon 1 demon. But now, she was able to easily summon 3 abyssal demons. But there was still a time limit. She needed to continuously provide magic to maintain the 3 demons in the human world. As long as her magic power was exhausted, the 3 abyssal demons would return to hell. Morbid, right? Qinzhao walked toward the 3 demons calmly. I think if you have the chance, you definitely don't want to meet me again. Everyone in the association stared at his back nervously. After all, compared to the 3 demons, Qinzhao was too insignificant. They couldn't be sure if Qinzhao could defeat the demon. Qinzhao suddenly stopped in his tracks. The dark serum spread around Qinzhao's feet. Under Qinzhao's control, it activated its meat grinder mode. Qinzhao had fought many demons from the abyss. Qinzhao clearly remembered all the abilities of the demons from the abyss, including their power, their magic, and even their mana. Countless black blades swept towards Morabit. Before Morabit could react, his feet were shredded by countless dark blades. The meat grinder mode was called the meat grinder, just like the name Chen Zhao had given it. As long as one fell into the blade of the dark serum, they would definitely be ground to pieces. Ah! Morabit let out a blood-curdling scream. As his legs were crushed, his body fell to the ground. The moment he fell to the ground, his entire body came into contact with the dark serum. In an instant, his entire body was torn to pieces. Pieces of flesh flew everywhere. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Even the other two demons, Consta and Sella, were shocked by Morabit's tragic ending. Ava couldn't believe this result either. She'd thought that even if she only summoned one demon, it would be enough to kill Chen Zhao. The reason why she had summoned the 3 abyssal demons was to show off her powerful strength. But the result was far beyond her expectations. Chen Zhao killed an abyss demon almost instantly. Consta suddenly launched a sneak attack on Chen Zhao. His eyes glowed with green flames. It hit Chen Zhao, and he was blown away. Great! Aiwa cried out in surprise. The association stared at Chen Zhao worriedly. However, Chen Zhao stood up again as if nothing had happened. The association also heaved a long sigh of relief. Chen Zhao suddenly sped up. He was so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch him. Chen Zhao leaped up and charged at Consta. The mouth of gluttony and eye of power opened at the same time. Chen Zhao's right arm turned into a foundation hammer, and he punched. Consta turned into a headless corpse and fell to the ground. Everyone was scared silly, including the remaining abyssal evil demon, Sella. Why did this happen? Why did I encounter such a monster? Aiwa thought. Sella thought the same. Do you know that you 3 aren't the only demons I've met? Chen Zhao grinned. Let me count how many demons I've killed. I think there are more than 10. Hurry up and send me back to hell, Sella cried in terror. I don't want to face this guy. Hurry. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief, as well as Sella, who was scared out of her wits. A man who could scare a terrifying demon into peeing his pants. It was Fioz's first time seeing a supernatural battle. Her heart was also filled with shock. I've never let go of any abyss demon that appears before me. Chen Zhao took out his zither and 12 stone swords. Just then, Horace said, President, can I leave the corpse intact? Chen Zhao thought about it and nodded. Sure. Then Chen Zhao put away the zither and 12 stone swords. Glancing at Sella, the dark serum suddenly pounced at her. Sella struggled, trying to break free from the dark serum. But all his struggles and efforts were in vain. The more he struggled, the faster he fell. In the end, his huge body completely sank into the dark serum. Ava, Adam, and Ellen's limbs were all cold. They looked at Chen Zhao with fear and despair. The man before them was indescribably terrifying. Even an expert as strong as Aiwa seemed so helpless when facing this man. Ms. Ava, do you have any other trump cards? If not, we can settle the score. No, it should be between you and Horace. Ava picked up Satan's blood. Don't come over. If you come over, I'll release Satan's blood. Chen Zhao ignored Aiwa and continued to walk toward her. Chapter 1095. Whoever's a coward. Chen Zhao sneered with an indifferent expression. Come, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. If I wanted to steal it, would Satan's blood still be in your hands? So I don't care if you let it go or not. Actually, I hope you do. President, stop joking, Alice shouted. You can take it, but we can't. Alice, what's the use of Satan's blood? Within 10 miles, everything will be destroyed. Any living being, Alice said. There's no chance of survival. The people of the association were shocked and looked at Chen Zhao worriedly. Ava seemed to have caught Chen Zhao's weakness. You can be afraid, but what about your subordinates? They don't have your abilities. I'm sorry to disappoint you again. I have the ability to protect them. What exactly do you want to let me go? Ava's eyes were filled with anger and conflict. What she was looking for now was nothing more than a chance of survival. But Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. He didn't want to negotiate with her at all. Your life and death will be decided by our Helith. Daughter, Do you really have to force me to death? Ava looked at Helis with a pained expression. Harris looked at Aiwa coldly. Put away your disgusting honor. I've said it before, my greatest wish is to kill you. If you want me to die, then we'll die together. Aiwa saw that both Chunjiao and Helith were determined. They wouldn't stop until they forced her to death. Then they'd die together. Since she had no way out, why should she leave a way out for others? Ava opened the bottle. Instantly, the light spots in the bottle gushed out. Ava didn't even have the chance to scream. Her body instantly turned into ashes. Adam and Ellen couldn't escape their doom either. Touched by a light spot, their bodies were also instantly destroyed. Originally, there were only 1 or 2 light spots in the bottle, but after leaving the bottle, the number of light spots increased rapidly and spread in all directions. Be it the ground, plants, or corpses, as long as they were touched by the light spots, they would be instantly destroyed. When they reached Qinzhao's feet, Qinzhao used a dazzling spell. Instantly, hundreds of magic arrays appeared behind him. This was the second time the people from the Union had seen this spell. He realized that the light spots were being absorbed by his spell. However, he soon realized that his magic array couldn't absorb anymore. However, at that moment, the light began to shrink and converge into a single light dot. Finally, the speck of light disappeared into the darkness. Alger stared at him in shock. The blood of Satan had been passed down in his family for generations. According to the family's internal records, the blood of Satan was just as Aiwa had said. No one could resist it and annihilate all life. However, Qinzhao had blocked Satan's blood. Previously, Alger had thought that Qinzhao was bluffing. But after witnessing this scene, he was completely speechless. Qinzhao turned his head and looked at Helios. I'm sorry that your mother didn't make it to you alive. It's fine, guild leader. I know this isn't your fault. Suddenly, Qinzhao saw the transparent Naxamara all. Qinzhao was surprised that Nasamara's all hadn't been destroyed. Qinzhao walked up to pick up Nasamara's all. But the next moment, Nasamara's all shattered like glass. A white key landed in Qinzhao's hand. Key? Another key? Holding the key, Qinzhao studied it carefully. Nasamara's all was originally a key, right? But this white key. But what about the red key from before? Qinzhao put away the key. Looking around, half of the altar had been destroyed by Satan's blood. If Qinzhao hadn't stopped it, most of the island would probably have been turned to ashes like the altar. Qinzhao looked at Alger. When can you pay me? I'll pay you as soon as possible. Alger didn't dare to go back on his word. Without a doubt, Qinzhao was like a demon king. He could go back on anyone but Qinzhao. I also hope to be quick, Qinzhao said. I'll rest here for the night and go home tomorrow. In a situation where there were no disputes, this island was very good. It didn't matter whether it was the geography or the temperature. Of course, one had to ignore the countless skeletons buried on the island. At night, everyone sat in front of the fire. Pan, roast this. Qinzhao took out an octopus tentacle. President, do you want to know about my family's plan? Helis asked, walking to Qinzhao's side. You know, just now, my bloodline inheritance was completely unlocked, Helis said. Yes, tell me. As for my family's plan, I'll have to talk about the Nasamara Copperall. I don't know the origin of the Nasamara Copperall, but it seems to have appeared along with the Nasamara civilization. As for the function of the Nasamara Copperall, I don't need to explain it to you. Not everyone can use the Nasamara Copperall, so it has always been kept by the 2 great aristocrats of Nasamara. However, due to the war, the population of the Sansiko family decreased drastically. Then the patriarch took the lead and started this plan to imitate the Nasamara Copperall, a Copperall that is only suitable for the Sansiko family. Qinzhao suddenly realized that the blood-red key was a replica. So, what happened? Of course it failed, Harold said. The red key that appeared just now is the so-called imitation. Was it a replica? Qinzhao was a bit disappointed, but he didn't think too much about it. Including the white key he'd just obtained, he now had 5 keys. However, he only used 2 keys now. The first golden key could allow him to adapt to most environments. However, he had yet to figure out what effect the second key had on his body. Qinzhao fell into deep thought. President, our ship is overturned. How do we go back now? West asked. My uncle's ship is still parked outside the island, Alger said. But it's an armed ship. It can't get close to the mainland. I can send it to Hawaii. That works too. Go to Hawaii and then take a plane back to L.A. Chinzhao nodded. I'm going to Hawaii too, FIOS said. There were 5 of them this time. Only she and Alger were left. FIOS didn't know what she was thinking. This journey had also allowed her to see another world. Chapter 1096. You definitely don't want to know, Chinzhao interrupted from the side. He'd seen how Alger had dealt with Domingo. Chinzhao didn't even want to hear about it. Oh, are there any treasures on the island? It's happening again. The president is going crazy again. Should we use this time to go and see if there's anything valuable on the island? Chinzhao suggested. Thankfully, Haris said, yes, Nasamara's treasures, but to us in the modern world, they're not worth much. After everyone fell asleep, Chinzhao climbed onto the hill and sat down. He was studying the white key. He'd studied the key in his hand countless times. He'd dripped blood to recognize it, send in magic, or use his spirit to leave his body. These were all basic operations. Occasionally, Chinzhao would roast the key over a fire or soak it in water. He tried to activate the key. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The sun was rising. Holding the key, Chinzhao aimed the keyhole at the sun. Through the keyhole, sunlight shone on Chinzhao's eyes. Chinzhao remembered last night, when Comet Beidou's had arrived. Nasamara's copper all, the white key's predecessor, had reacted. Logically speaking, the white key should be effective against starlight? No, Comet Beidou's didn't glow and wasn't red. Comet Beidou's glowed red because after entering low Earth orbit, it rubbed against the thin air and produced the red light. At that time, Comet Beidou's should have been completely burning. But to confirm his guess, he had to wait another 159 years. He had to wait until Comet Beidou's arrived again. So, this idea wasn't reliable. Chinzhao didn't have that long. He didn't have that much time. If he could simulate that red light, could he activate the white key? Just then, the people in the tents below started waking up one after another. President, we're leaving, the people below called out. Chinzhao waved his hand and walked down the hill. President, you didn't sleep at all last night? Yes, Chinzhao said. I was thinking about something. After boarding Alger's ship, the armed ship set off. Lisa, come here. President, what's up? Is there any way to deduce Comet Beidou's composition with current science? Chinzhao asked. Using the simplest method, I can roughly determine the composition of Comet Beidou's. Lisa said, Comet Beidou's burns due to friction with the air, producing a red light. Therefore, Comet Beidou's should have a large amount of calcium oxide, which produces a red light after burning. Therefore, after friction with the air in low Earth orbit, the calcium oxide produced a violent chemical reaction and broke down into oxygen and calcium, causing the red light. Calcium oxide? Is it quicklime? Is there quicklime in nature? Calcium oxide should be considered a synthetic material and was not flammable. Of course, it was not absolutely non-flammable. Under special circumstances, calcium oxide could decompose into oxygen and calcium. This is only based on the periodic table of elements on Earth. After all, Beidou's comet doesn't belong to Earth, so no one knows if there are elements outside of Earth in Beidou's comet. Therefore, it's also possible that it's caused by something that doesn't exist on Earth. When we get back, get some quicklime. What are you doing? Doing some research, Chinzhao said. After leaving Nasamara, the armed ship entered the violent sea again. Chinzhao started feeling seasick again. FIOS finally understood why she'd seen Chinzhao get shot by her subordinates that day. Her subordinates hadn't betrayed him. Chinzhao had asked for it himself. To help him sleep, FIOS had never seen anyone fall asleep like this. Normal people would only sleep. Then she also understood why Chinzhao had jumped off the ship. On Alger's ship, Chinzhao had also jumped off. Every time he woke up, the first thing he did was strip naked and jump into the sea. He didn't care about the water temperature and just jumped in. Plus, he didn't care if the ship would throw him off. Anyway, none of Chen Zhao's subordinates were worried. Chen Zhao could climb onto the ship by himself every time. This time, Chen Zhao climbed onto the ship again. FIOS stood at the edge of the ship and looked at Chen Zhao's figure. Over the past few days, Lisa, Hallies, and Alyssa had become familiar with each other. She'd heard many things about Chen Zhao. The girls concluded and told FIOS that Chen Zhao was a tyrant through and through. His temper was extremely bad, and no one was allowed to disobey his orders. Of course, Chen Zhao was also very protective. Mr. Chun, how can I join the supernatural organization? You don't have magic or bloodline awakening. You don't have the right to join. Chen Zhao glanced at FIOS. Plus, many of their operations are very dangerous. Why can Mr. Klaus's lightning squad? They were elites in the anti-terrorist force before joining. What about you? Miss Elite, what's the point of joining the supernatural organization? Do you want us to take care of you? So, if I can train to the level of the lightning squad, I can join the supernatural organization? Yes. If you can train to the level of Klaus's team, I'll allow you to join. What a joke. With the lightning squad's current strength, even without guns, one person could beat 20 to 30 people. FIOS had really underestimated the lightning squad. The armed ship sailed for more than a day and approached Hawaii. However, it didn't directly enter Hawaii. Instead, it stopped at a nearby island and then entered the main island with a yacht. After all, the armed ship was illegally modified. If it approached the main island rashly, there would probably be warships coming to greet them. After reaching Hawaii, the first thing Chen Zhao did was to ensure Feilai's safety. President, should we stay in Hawaii for a day or two? West asked. The girls seem to want to stay and play for a day or two. Sure, book the plane tickets for the day after tomorrow. You're free to do whatever you want today and tomorrow. Now that Hallies' problem was solved, everyone, including Chen Zhao, was free of any burden. Oh, have we found a hotel for tonight? Yes, West said. We can go now. Chapter 1097. It wasn't a hotel, but the interior decorations were rather luxurious. The style was also very fitting for the theme. Pirates, the front desk, the ushers, and even the security guards and cleaners were all wearing pirate outfits like in movies. After checking in, everyone went to the elevator. When the elevator door opened, Chen Zhao saw a familiar face. Gurette walked out of the elevator with an eye patch. A man beside Gurette bumped into Chen Zhao. Don't you have eyes? Before Chen Zhao could say anything, Gurette had already kicked the man to the ground. Boss, walking out of the elevator, Gurette looked at Chen Zhao. Mr. Chun, please. Did you open this hotel? I opened it with that money, Gurette said, smiling. Chen Zhao waved his hand and entered the elevator with the people from the association. Boss, do you know that guy? The subordinate asked, feeling wronged. Gurette knew that whenever his subordinate saw a woman, he couldn't help but use this method to provoke the man beside him. Most of the time, this method wouldn't get him a woman's favor, but he still liked it. He felt that this was how a man should be. Gurette looked at his subordinate. Next time you want to provoke someone, you better know who you're talking to. Otherwise, you might die without knowing why. Is that Asian some big shot? A politician or a gang? Butcher, Gurette said indifferently. All of us combined might not be as many as him. Hearing Gurette's words, the subordinate paled in fear. Most of the people in the hotel were members of Gurette's pirate crew. Basically, everyone had blood on their clothes. But hearing Gurette's words, the subordinate knew that he'd offended someone important. President, do you know that woman? Pirates in this area, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Is this hotel really opened by pirates? Then would they? No, this hotel is very clean. It should be a proper business. Plus, they wouldn't dare to do anything to us. Thinking about it, everyone felt that Chen Zhao's words made sense. What was so scary about pirates? No matter how scary they were, could they be scarier than their president? In their eyes, no one was scarier than Chen Zhao. West knew how to behave. He booked a luxurious suite for Chen Zhao. After showering, Chen Zhao planned to lie down and have a good rest. Over the past few days at sea, Chen Zhao hadn't had a good night's sleep. This time, he could finally have a good sleep. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Chen Zhao opened the door bare-chested. He saw Gu Lai standing at the door. What happened to your eyes? Guret pulled down his blindfold. Nothing much. It's just to fit in with the hotel's theme. Mr. Chen, won't you invite me in? Come in. Chen Zhao moved aside. Gu Lai came in with a bottle of wine. Do you want a drink? No, you must have something to talk to me about. I like to talk when I'm awake. Mr. Chen, I won't trick you. You are a pirate. All right, I don't dare, Gu Lai said calmly. Chen Zhao kept smiling. He wouldn't believe Guret's words. Guret was a vicious pirate. She had done many things like murder and arson. All right, you don't have to be so courteous. Just tell me, what do you want from me? Mr. Chen, do you know about the Battle of the Great Ring Trench 3 years ago? Battle of the Great Ring Trench? You mean war? No, Guret said. It's about the 4 tons of gold that Citibank transferred to the European branch. The transport plane crashed when it flew above the trench. The forces and pirates nearby all wanted to take the gold for themselves, so it started the battle. So the owner of the gold, Citibank, never thought about taking it back? After all, with Citibank's wealth, they can totally hire a strong armed force and take back the gold. Unless the country intervenes, no one can compete with Citibank's wealth. Of course, Citibank hired 2 cruisers from the Navy. It was also because of the addition of the 2 cruisers that the situation became more tense at that time. The battle finally broke out after the gold was salvaged by the warships. The 2 Navy warships were sunk. Chen Zhao couldn't help but look up at Guret. Someone really dared to attack the government's Navy? The American Navy was known as the strongest in the world. Moreover, the American government had always been vengeful. If 2 cruisers were sunk, this wouldn't be over. What about the gold? Who got it in the end? No one got it, Guret said. How is that possible? It can't be that everyone died together, right? The biggest pirate group in the Pacific took the gold, Big Belly. What a weird name. Can someone really tolerate their pirate group's name? Aren't they afraid of being laughed at? They're a family pirate group, Guret said calmly. Big Belly has 400 years of history. They're the oldest pirate group. Fine. What are you trying to say? You want to fight with me for the 4 tons of gold? Big Belly has already been destroyed. Destroyed? Why? Didn't you say that they have 400 years of history? They were too confident and arrogant. They suffered from the government's revenge. After that battle, the American army found the island they were hiding on and bombed it. The entire island was almost flattened. So the gold should be in the government's hands too, right? No. Although the American army destroyed Big Belly, they didn't get the gold. On the contrary, the Navy that participated in the operation also suffered heavy losses. Why? In the face of a fleet, I'm afraid no private organization would be able to fight back, right? Big Belly has lived on Nanchi Island for generations. Just like me, they've been haunted by the curse of pirates for generations. They're also guarding the same seal, but the American bombing unlocked the seal. Nanchi Island and the surrounding waters have completely turned into hell. Countless monsters occupy that area. No one can go near that area anymore. Not interested. Chen Zhao shook his head. Why? Guret asked. She'd been very confident in convincing Chen Zhao. Moreover, Chen Zhao was the most suitable partner she could think of. Chen Zhao kept his promise. As long as she wasn't two-faced, he wouldn't take her share for himself. Plus, Chen Zhao was powerful. He was also the most capable and most likely to deal with those monsters. Chapter 1098. It's not worth it, Chen Zhao said. What was the price of 4 tons of gold? It was probably around $160 million. If Chen Zhao and Guret worked together, they'd get 2 tons of gold, which was around $80 million. If he could actually earn $80 million, Chen Zhao would go through mountains of daggers and seas of fire. But he couldn't actually earn $80 million. That was gold that couldn't see the light of day. Risfar had helped Chen Zhao deal with the gold last time. Risfar had been the one who'd helped him deal with the gold last time. But the real fee wasn't a small amount. The lowest was 30%. Such a huge cleanup would be 40% or even 50%. In other words, all the hard work he had put in had been earned by the agency. Chen Zhao would rather not have anything than do such a thankless job. So he rejected it decisively. No. Why? Tens of millions isn't worth it, Chen Zhao said honestly. Actually, Chen Zhao didn't want to work for the agency. If it was just to earn tens of millions, Chen Zhao would be happy to do it. But he couldn't accept giving half of the money to an unrelated person. Mr. Chun, I think you're mistaken. It's not just 4 tons of gold. Not just 4 tons? Didn't you say it yourself? I'm talking about Big Belly's 400 years of treasure, Guret said, his eyes flashing. 400 years of treasure? How much is that? Conservatively speaking, no less than $500 million. Hearing this number, Chen Zhao was conflicted again. To be honest, Chen Zhao was tempted. But if he had to turn these things into money and then launder them, he'd have to earn a lot more from the agency fee. This made Chen Zhao feel very pained. In the end, Chen Zhao could only get 1/3 of the value of everything. Of course, Chen Zhao knew why the agency fee was so high. Actually, they'd taken a huge risk, but Chen Zhao still couldn't accept it. Wait, I need to make a call first. Then I can decide if I want to work with you or not. Of course, Guret wasn't worried that Chen Zhao would leak the news. After all, she trusted Chen Zhao's credibility. She'd chosen to work with Chen Zhao because of his credibility. Not many people knew the location of Nanxi Island. Furthermore, she was the only one who knew where the treasure was hidden. Chen Zhao walked out of the balcony and called West. West, are you in the hotel? President, I brought some people out to play. Didn't you say you wanted to sleep just now? That's why I didn't call you. Let me ask you something. Speak. If I find the pirate's treasure, do you have a way to give me the actual price? President, I don't launder money. The item this time might be worth more than 200 million, Chen Zhao said. The commission can be used as our association's fund. West was silent for a long time before he finally said, President, did you find the pirate's treasure? Not yet. Someone wants to cooperate with me. President, first of all, we have to find a buyer. Then, we have to go through financial channels to make the money see the light of day. We will lose a considerable amount of money. Just give me a number. If it's 200 million, how much can I get? About 120 million US dollars. How much will the association get? About 30 million. President, I'm telling you the actual price. So, 25% of the 200 million will go into someone else's pocket. President, this money can't be saved. I found a legal channel, but they won't work for us for no reason. Chen Zhao thought about it. West was the safest channel and also the one that offered the highest price. There couldn't be a channel that was cheaper than West. Moreover, 30 million would go into the association's hands. Relatively speaking, it was the most valuable channel to turn illegal into legal. After hanging up, Chen Zhao walked into the living room. When do we leave? Chen Zhao asked. We can't move right now, Guret said. Why? Nanxi Island's location is very special. It's submerged in the sea for half a year. Only when the Pacific Ocean flows west and the water level drops will the island surface. We have to wait for half a year. No, the water level will drop by mid-March or early April. We can go to the island then. Sure. Let me know then. You have my contact number, right? Yes. What do I need to prepare? Chen Zhao asked. Prepare for battle. Not only on land, but also in the water. We might face a huge test as soon as we get close to the sea. Chen Zhao was really looking forward to it. Of course, he wasn't looking forward to the battle. He was looking forward to the rewards. After all, if everything went smoothly, Chen Zhao would become a real billionaire. Actually, with his current assets, he was already a billionaire. Mirror Lake and the surrounding land were worth at least 40 million. The yacht was also worth more than 10 million. The shares of Marina's restaurant were also worth more than 10 million. There was also his savings in the bank. Soon, Alger would have to pay him 20 million. Chen Zhao's net worth was already close to 100 million. However, because he had to build a new house, his bank savings had been emptied again. Even after the house was built, it would still cost a few million to buy the interior. Therefore, Chen Zhao's funds were still relatively tight. Now that he had a project that could earn at least 100 million, Chen Zhao was very tempted. Then it's settled. Should we open a bottle of champagne to celebrate? Let's hope our cooperation goes well. Leave the wine, and you can go, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Air, my girlfriend is pregnant. I don't want to drink with another woman in a hotel room right now. Fine. Gurette put the wine on the table helplessly. Oh, $50,000 for this wine. I'll put it on your account. With that, Gurette turned around and left elegantly. Fuck, $50,000? I don't want this wine anymore. Come back, come back. Unfortunately, Gurette left too quickly. Chun Zhao could only reluctantly leave the $50,000 champagne. However, he really couldn't bear to open the bottle. He had never spent $50,000 on a bottle of wine in his life. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.